Hello and welcome to the Writers Showcase, everybody. I'm very happy to have a number of my regulars up here. Allow me to bring them in. One at a time.
行くわよ。来世の試練よ。
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Sorry about missing last week. Oh, I crashed, basically.
You are totally fine. Totally works. Let me keep bringing in guests. Welcome.
Hello, Kaiju.
Sup, you bundles of sticks.
Such a...
It's a perfectly cromulent word.
Are the people upstairs, or are they in the same room with you?
A few more of our friends.
He's going right for the crew!
They're eating him, and soon they'll eat me. Oh my god.
Yep. Please welcome.
Hey, folks.
What's up? Always a pleasure. So I can't remember what the Kishu's entrance was, but we'll just do this.
What do you want to do tonight?
The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
Seems legit.
Yeah.
Take over the world, dude.
Alrighty.
That's what I try to do every night.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing.
The same thing we do every night, stupid! Try to take over the world! Alright.
Now
Well,
I'm
who's
mentioning
gonna be building the
Camp
camps
Jackson.
now, huh?
Okay, can we just get started?
Alrighty. Well, Neph, Kaiju God, then Drake, I think will be the order that we'll go in. That sound good?
Works for me.
Yeah, sure.
Sounds
Right.
good.
And then just go in a circle. Urkel and I'll go last.
Okay,
I can do
as
that.
promised.
Yeah, aren't I going to?
Yeah, well, Kishu, yeah, we'll go in a circle. Yeah, we'll go in the circle. Neph, Kaiju, then Drake, then Carl, then and Kishu, then me.
Okay.
So, as promised, I have something new to read today. Completely new that I've been working on for a while. And it's just been... Yeah. It took a while to figure out how to make it all fit, is what was going on. Okay, so, the title of this... the title of this new story
stop
of
spraying.
mine.
Wolf, stop spraying unmentionables all over the carpet.
Okay.
I wonder if this
No.
wolf is housebroken.
No,
He's not.
Say it, don't spray it.
Bad dog, no biscuits.
That's racist. You're just saying that because all canids look alike.
Okay, so this new one, I've called it Phantasy Star Online Nebula. And this is a Sword Art Online Phantasy Star Online verse crossover. Who here is familiar with that second thing?
I'm familiar with Fantasy Star.
Oh,
I'm
good.
familiar with Sword Art Online.
Me too.
I've heard of it, but I have no idea what it's about.
Fantasy Star
References
started
only.
out with like a typical sci-fi fantasy RPG, but then it just sort of evolved in like a big fancy MMO. Like it kept having MMOs after MMOs.
Yeah, that's why it's called Phantasy Star Online.
Well, it started out as just Fantasy Star. And
Well, yeah.
they're like human races, a race of magical elves, monsters, and sentient
Robots.
mechs. Yeah, that's what I'm just going to
Basically mech. Yeah, basically mech. So, yes. Alright, so a new Phantasy Star MMO has been announced and it's explosive. Phantasy Star Online Nebula is the game everyone's been waiting for, but not all is as it seems, for there is a dark secret waiting in the wings. And that's the summary I have for it. So, arriving on Home 1. Yes, that's a reference. November 6th, 2022, Kawagoe, Kirigaya residence. Kazuto scanned the web guide one last time as he listened to MMO Daily's newscast. It was a rerun, old news, but Kazuto didn't expect any more or less since the rerun covered Phantasy Star Online Nebula. Phantasy Star Online was a very popular set of games that had started off as a spin-off of the Phantasy Star titles, all the way back when the GameCube was new. Millions of players still played Phantasy Star Online 2. Nebula would be the first of the Phantasy Star Online titles released on the full-dive virtual reality console, the Nerve Gear. Nebula was in such high demand that Kayaba had been forced by Argus to up how many copies would be available in the first wave by a factor of 500. No, that should be 50. Oops. Gah. Whatever. Easily fixed. Kazuto checked his clock as he faintly heard a knock on his bedroom door over his headphones. Suga was the only other person in the house right now, and she wouldn't be for long. Kazuto may have been pushing his little cousin away for several years now, but he still kept an eye on her and made sure to know what her schedule was. Suga was off to kendo practice, and Mom, Aunt Midori, strange how even after 4 years he still needed to correct himself, would be home in another hour. Then dinner would be a few hours after that. Kazuto turned his attention away from his computer to pull open the curtains of his bedroom window, watching as Suga hurried to her club activity. Kazuto's eyes went back to his clock once Suga's form had disappeared. He still had 10 minutes to get ready for the launch of Phantasy Star Online Nebula 1. He looked to his right, where there was a small bag of chips, a couple of chocolate chip cookies, and a small box of juice set. He should be good to play for several hours, and his snack was small enough that he wasn't likely to ruin his dinner either. He checked the clock again. 12:55. He had better start closing down. Kazuto closed his browser and turned his computer off. He pulled off his headphones and set them down next to his keyboard. He got out of his chair and made sure that his nerve gear was plugged in and charged. Kazuto pulled the helmet-style console on and made himself comfortable on his bed, a wide grin blooming on his face when he saw that there was only 1 minute left. 12:59 turned to 1 o'clock. Link, start, Kazuto said, clearly in English. His vision went white. Then there was a blast of color as his senses were connected to the nerve gear one by one. He confirmed that his language was Japanese, and then he confirmed that he wanted to use his data from the beta test. Then his world went black. Phantasy Star Online Nebula, Home 1. Welcome back, Captain. We were starting to wonder if you would ever arrive. A voice to his left said cheerfully. Kirito opened his eyes and stretched. Good afternoon, Lee, he said, turning to the female cast that took care of his ship. Have the new recruits begun to arrive yet? He asked as he got up from his seat and looked around the lavish cockpit of Home 1, the ship that would be his base of operations. In droves, Lee, an NPC, reported with a happy smile. Home 1 is already at near full capacity. Wait, how many people were supposed to be on each ship again? Kirito wet his lips nervously. Lee, what is full capacity again? 500 Guardians, Captain. Lee replied, a holographic log appearing in front of her, shining from a projector in her left wrist. 500 people? That was a lot better than it could have been, that's for sure. Kirito hated interacting with people. That meant that there were 500,000 people logging in. He could not deal with them all at once. Lee, start putting them all in groups, he ordered. Make sure that each landing party has a force. Aye, sir, Lee replied. And writing started scrolling across the screen. Shall I number them to make it easier for you to work with them? Please, Lee. Kirito turned to her. So, where to first? We are off to the main arrival dock, Lee replied. Kirito took a deep breath. Okay, please, Lee, take the lead. Setagaya, Yuki residence. Are you certain you don't mind going in my stead, Dad? Yuki Koichiro asked. This is an important meeting. I'm sure, Koichiro, Yuki Shozo replied. You have a fun afternoon with your sister. Koichiro spied said little sister, Asuna, out of the corner of his eye, mostly hidden by the corner of the wall at the top of the stairs. He gave his father a smile. Thanks, Dad. I don't get to spend nearly enough time with Asuna. Shozo nodded, heading for the door to the garage. As soon as Shozo was gone, Asuna bounded down the stairs. I can't wait to play with you today, Ko, she said cheerfully. I'm still surprised that you never tried to play PSO2, Koichiro said as he led her back up the stairs. Well, in that game, we couldn't be sure that I'd have picked the same ship as you. And we could not be sure that we were even on the same mission, Asuna argued. With this game, we can be sure of that. I suppose. Koichiro hummed in amusement. Have you finished calibration of your nerve gear? Yep, just finished, Asuna chirped. Now we just need to create our characters, right? Did you remember to put Phantasy Star Online Nebula in the nerve gear? Koichiro asked. Yes, big brother, Asuna said with a roll of her eyes. Then I will meet you in Nebula, Koichiro said as they stopped at their bedroom doors. You remember to set out a snack for later? Yes. Asuna made sure Koichiro could see her rolling her eyes this time. Koichiro laughed as the door shut behind him. Character creation. Asuna grinned when she opened her eyes and saw a large metallic room. Welcome to Phantasy Star Online Nebula. Please choose the race you would like to play as. Asuna blinked as several different figures appeared in front of her. There were 4 she could choose from: human, Newman, Caste, and Doomans. Asuna pressed on the human first to get a description of it. Human. Humans make for great all-round guardians, as their unique versatility allows them to adapt quickly in all environments, making them able to face challenges head-on. The right mix of physical strength and endurance, in addition to their ability for photon arcs, makes them a great fit to take up any class or weapon. An all-rounder. That probably meant they were the easiest to play as. Perhaps she should have sat down with Ko when he was doing his research for the game. Well, no use crying over it. She tapped the Newman icon next. Newman. While masters of photon manipulation, Newmans are less favored with health and dexterity. They excel in wielding restorative or elemental forces with their unrivaled ability to learn, wield, and resist photon techniques. The result of genetic manipulations of select humans to create a race that excelled in photon aptitude. Newmans are easily identified by their sharp and pointy ears. Yep, those were elf ears, all right. Asuna nodded thoughtfully to herself and tapped the Caste icon next. Caste. Formerly humans or Newmans with weak constitutions but strong photon aptitude. Castes are the result of the transplant of doomed individuals into stronger artificial frames to enable their survival. While this process somewhat weakens their photon powers and removes their ability to wear some of the latest fashions, the form in which they are now cast excels at ranged or close quarters combat. Cyborgs. That could be interesting, but Asuna was also certain that this was not what she wanted to play as. She tapped the last of the 4 icons to take a look at the last of her choices. Dooman. Doomans are members of an artificially created race with high potential for the manipulation of photon arts. The most apparent feature they possess is either their unique horns or their chance to have dichromatic eyes, making this race quite distinctive from the others inhabiting the ships of the Oracle fleet. Horns? Dichromatic eyes? Asuna stepped closer to the hologram to get a better look. Yes, that was a straight horn on his head. And yes, he had 1 green and 1 brown eye. That was disconcerting. Well, this was her first time playing a Phantasy Star Online game, so she might as well take the race it is easiest to play as. Asuna tapped the human icon again and confirmed her choice. Please select your gender. That voice from before rang out. Asuna immediately chose to play as her own gender. Her brother's warnings ringing in her ears and confirmed her choice. Please choose your class. That voice said as several avatars appeared before her, each one dressed as a force, a ranger, a hunter, a vanguard, a braver, and a summoner. Hunter. Hunters are close combat operatives, capable of wielding swords, lances, and other heavy weapons, uniquely gifted with the ability to draw the attention of their enemies away from other guardians. Hunters can fight in different stances that favor either striking ranged attack damage or striking defense, respectively. Their skill set selections feature damage mitigation, offensive counterattacks, stance bonuses, as well as curative and restorative effects. Whether protecting their guardian comrades or wreaking havoc among enemies, hunters are always a welcome class on dangerous missions for beginning players. So this class was up close and personal, and for beginners. She looked at the description for a long moment before deciding to look at all the other classes before making her choice. She tapped the Ranger icon next. Ranger. Rangers can masterfully use the assault rifle or launcher to deal damage at range. Individual assault rifle shots may not be overly powerful, but when riddled with enough bullets, the extermination of enemies is certain. If swarms of enemies mass, the launcher provides a surefire way to win, so long as the ranger has the time and protection needed to use the slow-firing weapon safely. Rangers can also augment their skill sets to emphasize overall damage, exploit individual weak points, or amplify supportive boons for their fellow guardians for intermediate players. This class was obviously for those who liked playing a ranged option, but Asuna wasn't sure how she wanted to play yet. She tapped the Force icon next, and the hologram rotated to the one that looked the most like a magic user. Force. For those who seek to study the use of powerful photon techniques, the Force is a sound class to embody. Force operatives use devastating techniques to excel in various combat situations so long as they aren't getting hit very often, as they do not have the best defensive capabilities. They can provide restorative, curative, and empowering effects on their comrades, while also wielding elemental powers chosen to exploit the target's weakness. For advanced players, this one actually looked like the one that she'd have the most fun playing. The fact that it was for advanced or returning players made her hesitate to pick being a Force, but she hadn't yet looked at all the classes, so perhaps she could show to come back to it. She took a deep breath and tapped the Vanguard icon next. Vanguard. A jack of all trades that can employ different combat styles to fill diverse roles in parties. Prefers lighter weapons. Vanguards can use every weapon and are the best teachers for new players. If they could use all weapons, then this was probably the best of the classes, especially if they made excellent teachers. Asuna turned her attention to the next class, Braver. Braver. If you desire to switch between short and long-range combat, Braver is the class for you. When fighting in close combat, they favor the katana, while at a distance, they use the bow. The use of the katana requires timing and precision to overwhelm enemies with a flurry of carefully orchestrated moves. In contrast, the bow is as straightforward as an arrow, though it requires relative stability and can benefit from specific chains of photon arts. The skill set of the Braver, therefore, includes abilities to empower either of these weapons, which allows them to adapt to any combat situation with ease. Close or long-range abilities? This one sounded like it would be fun. Asuna smiled. Maybe I'll choose this one for an alternate account. She tapped the last icon. Summoner. Summoners are guardians that fight with the aid of pets. To become a summoner, one must be quick-witted and capable of making fast decisions as to which companion to use to achieve victory against enemies. Unlike other classes, summoners do not have a choice in the weapon that they use They rely solely on harmonizers to control their pets, which are the true weapons of a summoner. Some pets are better at area-wide attacks, while others excel at ranged single-target damage. The skill set of the summoner is naturally replete with pet ability bonuses in the attack, defense, or support categories. She could own a pet in this game and use them for defense? That sounded fun. Now that she'd seen the descriptions, Asuna took a step back to think about her choices. Yeah, I think I still want to play as a force, she decided with a smile, tapping the force icon and confirming her choice. Class chosen, Asuna moved on to customizing her avatar, what her avatar looked like, clothes, hair, and eyes. Asuna decided to give herself dark blue eyes and put a little more red in her hair before turning her attention to her clothes. She decided on a long-sleeved, long pants combination in mostly red with a little bit of white. She knew this was a game, but at the same time, Asuna didn't want her clothes to get snagged on anything. Are you sure? The voice asked, and Asuna pressed yes. Her world went black. And that's the end of the prologue.
Very nice indeed. Good introduction.
Thank you.
You sure took a lot of time setting up the premise and explaining the classes and everything.
Well, sometimes it's best to get that shit out of the way first, and then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the descriptions, I used a couple of the different games to just copied and pasted, basically. But I think I can get away with that, as I don't plan to do that for anything else.
So, I noticed that Kirito was a captain. Was that a bonus from playing as the beta or something?
Yes. Each of the beta testers are in charge of one of the 1,000 ships that make up the fleet.
Well, this definitely sounds like a space opera epic and the likes of like Star Trek or something.
Perhaps.
Does serve to put more significance on the beta testers as a class.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we do have another guest. I brought him in briefly, but now it's time to bring him in officially. Welcome, Perion.
Hello again, cow.
Hello.
Hello, Krish.
Greetings, minions.
How dare you?
How dare I what?
How dare you refer to me as a minion?
Oh, I thought that was I thought it was being polite. Oh, and one more thing.
That's pretty to you, dude.
One more thing. Happy enough day to you.
Thank you.
That's-
Wasn't it like a few days ago, though?
Yeah.
oh, yeah, but I don't think we were screaming at that point.
Yeah.
FYI, it was Neph Champion's birthday, I think 2 days ago.
Yep, on Thursday.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
I played it when we watched. I played this when we watched Pacific Rim a little bit ago.
Merry Birthmas to you, good ma'am.
Any happy return.
1, 2, 3, 4. Happy, happy birthday from all of us to you. We wish it was our birthday so we could party too. Happy, happy birthday and all your dreams come true. We wish it was our birthday so we could
It's your birthday.
That's a good movie.
What?
Awesome movie.
Yeah, that movie is so great.
Back when Disney was actually good.
It's been a long time since I watched it. I don't really remember having an opinion on it.
Which movie was that?
Apparently, the movie was like supposed to be really, really different, like a musical or something.
Yeah, it was supposed to be like a straight, a lot similar to. I don't want to say The Road to El Dorado because that was basically a parody of those old Bob Hope road movies, but it was meant to like play the Inca culture pretty straight and about as respectably as Disney could have done.
I have mixed feelings about that. I mean, Road to El Dorado was really good, and
yeah, I saw that for my birthday a long time ago, way back when it came out.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Road to El Dorado is what made me a thigh man.
what was her name? Chell.
Yeah.
The original Chell before Portal.
I should watch that sometime later. But anyway, should we get back to reading?
Sir.
Yes, I believe it is Kaiju God's turn.
Alrighty.
Reading.
It is chapter 6. So, here we go, everybody. Strap in for your seats.
Oh, right. Better mute myself.
On the other side of the forest, Professor Maul was sitting in a large hovering chair with several holo monitors observing the chaos going on in the forest. Beside him was the large direwolf eating a pizza and the shy dog gnawing on a bone. Interesting. The man muttered to himself as he watched the battle with the nightmarish creature. This year's picks might not be so worthless after all, he said as the wolf looked at him with a skeptical face. I know, he said to him, giving a loving pat on his head. The Grim spread its flabby, disgusting wings with a powerful motion shot into the air with blinding speed. A massive gust of wind almost pushed the group back. Rezio could see a large cluster of electrical pulses gathering in the now horrifying maw that was the creature's torso. Dodge! As soon as Rezio shouted, a blue beam shot out of the creature's midsection. Luckily, its damaged wing caused the creature to swing left, missing them entirely. Everything the beam touched was completely atomized into nothing. Rezio cried out in pain as her vision was now gone, replaced with nothing but a pulsing light and searing pain in every nerve in her eyes. What the fuck was that? Gale shouted in disbelief. Royce looked at the devastation caused by the beam. My guess is a particle beam of some kind, he said. Doesn't matter what it is, Rezio slurred as her eyes returned to their normal crimson red. We need to get it out of the air, and it's out of range for me. She looked at Nyella and Gale. Make that at least 3. Gale, however, sported a large smirk. I can get up there, no problem. Rezio raised her brow at her statement. Really now? Giving a rather cocky nod, Gale looked at the beast struggling to stay airborne. I'm just going to need Miss Muscles over there to give me a boost, she said, looking to Nyella, who seemed a bit embarrassed at the name. I'll do what I can, she said, before looking to Royce, who seemed to be lost in thought. Rezio took a black-tipped round from her ammo pouch on her hip and loaded it into her gun. If you can knock that thing out of the sky, then I can hopefully finish it, or at least drive it away. The Grim and began to charge for another particle beam, just as Gale had perfectly balanced herself in Nyella's palms. The Amazon then launched the woman into the air with such power that the ground beneath her fractured and broke apart. Gale's arrow-shaped shields opened up and outshot several mirrors just as she felt herself to begin to decelerate. Then her body turned into light and reflected off each mirror until she shot past the monster. She missed! Rezio snarled. No, she's in perfect position, Royce retorted as he crushed the remaining lightning dust. The lightning viciously arced around him before coating his swords. Get ready. Gil reformed behind the Grim and pulled up her left leg while extending her right. Miniature jets deployed from the sides of her greaves and shot out highly pressurized wind, propelling her into the monstrosity. The instant her foot smashed into the beast's injured wing, the massive claw shot down with incredible power and pierced through the chitin. As the Grim roared in anguish, the streams of wind grew stronger and stronger as the armor began to crack and the creature began to... It pushed back and kept itself in the air, albeit awkwardly. Gil then let out a saurian shriek as the wind gave one final intense burst, causing her to be driven through the Grim's shoulder. The monster howled, seeing its wing blasted off as the woman crashed into the ground. Gale skidded across the open area before slamming into a tree, causing her aura to break and knocking her out cold. The Grim began to plummet to the ground when it felt another intense pain shoot through its other wing. Rezio had cleaved it off in one swift strike with her sword. Seeing her now above it, aiming her massive revolver, she fired at its chest. A small singularity the size of a baseball formed the instant it hit before imploding a second later, taking a sizable chunk out of its chest. The creature crashed to the ground with a thunderous noise that echoed through the entire forest. Despite the immense damage it had sustained, the Grimm somehow managed to stand. However, black mist was flowing over the ground like blood. It wasn't over yet. The second the creature stood, Nyella slammed her claws into the damaged leg of the Grimm, and with one motion ripped it off. The forest was once again filled with horrifying and indescribable howls as the monster fell to one side. "It's not over yet, you ugly son of a bitch," Royce growled as he shot in a blue bolt towards it. The Grimm managed to shift onto its remaining leg, but it was too late. In an X motion, Royce's lightning-coated blades gashed deep into the chitin as electricity surged through the Grimm's body. Finally, the beast fell back in defeat, and Royce fell to his knees, his aura broken and consciousness fading. "We did it!" Nyella cheered as she held up Royce. "I'm fine too. Thanks." Gale moaned as she limped to the group. Rezio sheathed her sword while looking at the fallen beast. A look of shock came across her face as it was somehow still moving. As it sat up, the Grimm looked at the group and gave a long, deep, spiteful hiss before hobbling to its remaining foot and awkwardly limping away. The four simply watched as it vanished into the forest, too tired to really do anything else. After hours of walking, the group finally made it to the other end of the forest. A spiral staircase carved into the cliff face seemed to be the only way up. Giving a collective groan, they all began to climb the stairs. Finally, after an hour of slow limping, the group reached the top and collapsed the minute they all reached the top of the stairs. "Welcome, just in time, too." The Professor Maul motioned to the sun, which had almost set. "Where are the others?" Nyella asked as she looked around. "You're the only group that made it. The other participants are dead," he said with little emotion in his voice. "Dead? All of them?" Gale asked, dumbfounded. "Yes. The applicants this year were very unimpressive. Aside from you four." He stood from his chair and approached them with hands behind his back. "Normally we'd save this for tomorrow, but since you're all that's left, I'll get it out of the way now." Professor Maul cleared his throat and adjusted his mask. "Rezio Grayson, Nyella Fatalis Macaraton, Gale Mitchell, and Royce Kruger, for not only being the only ones to pass, but also forcing a high-class Grimm to retreat, you will be now assigned as Team Ranger, led by Rezio Grayson." He gave a respectful nod to them. "Now, the hard part begins." And there we go.
Was that Ruby?
Yes.
Okay. I had to figure out through context when I heard Grimm.
Yeah, I'm basically, when people say, "Let's say you do better," and I'm Thanos putting on the Infinity Gauntlet, I'll do it myself.
I'll do it myself.
Exactly.
I think that sort of brought all of us here at some point or another.
Yeah.
You want something done right, write it yourself, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Well, that's what got me writing in the first place. I read a whole bunch of books by this guy named Dan Brown, and then I started reading the Da Vinci Code. I realized he tricked me into reading the same book 4 times.
That's what I keep hearing about Dan Brown, where it's like it's the same book over and over.
Yeah, and it's like you say, it's the crucial moment in every author's life when you take the book you're reading, you throw it against the wall, and say, "God damn it, I could do better than that."
Yeah.
Exactly. I've even shown...
I was 13, so I very much couldn't.
well, yeah.
My God, I am so glad that particular story has been consigned to the dungeons of hard drives past.
Oh, tragic.
I'm so glad all of my stuff from when I was a teen is lost.
A moment of
Well,
silence.
unlike you, cowards.
John.
In hindsight,
Unlike you-
maybe it's a good thing that some stories just end.
Words, if I actually ever find something, I'm going to make it public.
Yeah.
I like a few old game series, but they haven't made new ones yet. That's probably a good thing because whenever people make new stuff these days, they either really pussyfoot around it, like making live service games, or they just basically rebooted to hell and back, trying to pass on nostalgia.
You take that back, Akos! You speak blasphemy!
I think that it was
Wise
like
Wolf.
Robert
He wasn't
Jordan
eating
did.
meat. He was eating pizza.
I think it's that Robert Jordan had the same experience you did.
Oh, okay. I retract my fury.
Well, that happened to me. When I got to about the halfway point of let's see, was it Order of the Phoenix? Yep, it was Order of the Phoenix.
Oh,
Harry Potter.
Yeah, I got halfway through the book. I almost threw the book at the wall, going, "No, this is it." It dawned on me at the halfway point that none of the characters felt as if they were the same characters that were in book 4.
That was Goblet of Fire, right?
Yes, because what's this? Hermione Granger does not want to borrow the potions book that Harry's using. She wants to get rid of it. Excuse me?
That's 6. That's Half-Blood Prince.
Well,
not,
yeah, okay.
Order of the
So,
Phoenix.
yeah, it wasn't 5, it was 6. I managed to somehow get through 5. But the 6 felt as if the characters had all turned into Jake Skywalker, basically.
Or
Potter in the Half-Blood
Dementors,
Prince.
really.
Yeah.
book 7 was disappointing. The only good bit of book 7, I think, was Snape, and the rest of it was like.
I am the
Only problem is Snape is a detestable character.
Yeah, but he's
Yeah,
interesting.
man, fuck Snape.
Yeah.
And not in the fun way either. I mean, fuck him in the bad way.
Look,
Yeah.
all right.
He's very base breaking, at least.
Look, those
Anyway.
kids needed to be taught a lesson. Sometimes you need to do it the hard way.
But
And
my
kids
favorite
these days
sometimes you
need-
need to teach them lab safety and how to prepare things correctly instead of just going, "Here's the recipe, do it."
I think
Exactly.
you also need to teach kids not to be so petty and like borderline racist with each other, like the whole house rules and stuff, like House Cup, like Gryffindor, Slytherin, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw. Slytherin just hate everyone.
They're kind of putting all of the little asshole kids,
The bad eggs.
in one.
Yeah, they're putting them all in the same place.
Which is
They
not a good
they stereotype
plan.
really. The Ravenclaws are the eggheads, the Gryffindors are the brave fools, the Slytherins are the a-holes, and the Hufflepuffs are like, well, they're loyal, so we might as well just put them like the oddballs.
The
They're like-
Hufflepuffs
He
are the
also ran
proletarians.
of Hogwarts.
They're like anybody, I think.
But yeah, Half-Blood Prince was where I went, no, I can do better.
The pedagogical methods of Hogwarts are not of the most enlightened either.
No, they're not.
I
Oh, it's another one. Yeah. What? So you just put it,
What the?
find stuff to put stuff on.
Kishu's
What?
having background noise.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
I
So-
believe it's Drake's turn next.
Yep. So a little background previously on Science and Sorcery, because I'm doing 3 different readings. This is 2 of 3 of How to Win Wars and Influence Allies. And no, the restraining order against the comedy clubs did not drop. So last time, Lana and Tab came across a lycanthrope that could talk. They figured out this was a very odd scenario, so they hauled it back to the Zeta district, where Tap had his laboratory set up. And in the process, riding around in the void ship Gerion's trunk, they managed to talk to Karais, or he's not called Karais yet, but talk to the lycanthrope and figure out why Tap didn't kill him on the spot, and it was because he had information that Tap is corroborating in order to determine the theory of lycanthrope progenitors. If this is true, it could turn the war. And we're about to get to his recounting of when Tap came across one. Okay, ready to go?
Yep.
I was once brought to the Great Aegis on a communal commission, supposedly instigated by the Zongrit themselves. Mercenaries gathered from many realms that heard the call. For their part, a legion of precisely 100 Zongrit, not one fewer, had banded together. Before that day, those who knew the Zongrit wondered if that many actually still existed. The Zongrit oracles and scouts spoke of a coming invasion beyond any that Zongrit could halt alone. It would be the greatest attempt to breach the Great Aegis since its inception. They were correct. Scene change. Stand strong, mercenaries! You fight for more than just yourselves. You fight for all the lives at your sides, for all the lives at your back. You cannot fail them. You will not fail them. The brash oratory rang out over the loudspeakers to a firing line of warriors that stretched from one abyssal horizon to the other. Tap didn't concern himself with a rallying call, his attention more focused on frantically opening the Mark I positron cannon's side panel. He was on the 4th and final screw when he glanced down the range. Perspectives play odd tricks on one's eyes when trying to pick a lycanthrope out of a hollow background of unfilled, starless sky, but its crimson eyes were unmistakable. Not like the hordes that poured down the no man's land, only to be cut apart by every manner of ammunition known to Voidwalker and entity alike. Those lycanthrope's eyes were so small compared to their massive frames that if you could see them clearly, either you or it had only instants to live. But this one, it was either deceptively close or colossally large. The hour is upon us, mercenaries! Earn your redemption through fire and blood. The Leviathan approaches. Fight it not to satisfy your greed and gluttony with the reward, for that is the road to death. Instead, fight for a nobler cause, and your victory will be sure. Fight for your brothers and sisters in the realms of your homelands. Fight for those that the Takha would not spare. Zaviat's hand is on your shoulder. If you will only have faith, remember him, and you cannot fail. Tap redoubled his efforts at the sight. The panel came off before too much longer, letting him see what had gone wrong with his prototype. Tap reached into the device, retrieving the form of an octahedron of what appeared as obsidian. Its glow had long since expired. Just as Tap had feared, such a situation would have meant his doom, had he not prepared for this eventuality. Tap rifled through the pockets of his jacket, eventually coming across another crystal, this one a hexahedron. Also, unlike the last crystal, this one shined like a star. He set the crystal into the device in the same socket where he pulled the last crystal, at which point the Mark I hummed back to life again. No! No! Where are you all going? Don't fall back like cowards. Stand for Zaviat, and Zaviat will forgive you of your past transgressions. Fail him again, and vengeance will be swift and merciless. By the time Tap had gotten to the trigger of his swivel-mounted positron cannon, it appeared as if fewer rounds were traveling downrange. Those fighters with melee aptitude on the front lines seemed significantly sparser, making avoiding hitting them easier. Or it would when those who refused to stand the line got out of his line of fire. With more sense than zeal, Some of the forward line stormed past his position and away from the hordes in stark defiance to the voice over the PA. They passed by him to his left and his right, probably whichever way they thought put the most distance between them and the monsters they fled from, as if every inch mattered. As more and more of the mercenaries broke past him, the hordes pressed closer, eager to claim the ground they had bought with their miserable lives. Tap had paid the leading lycanthropes little attention, instead taking his time and picking his shots in support of those with the unique combination of fortitude and arrogance that it took to match the abominations in melee combat. The ranks of these vanguard fighters were thinning out by the second before his eyes, succumbing to either the dark tide of bodies or their own cowardice. The Mark I's blast seared the air with every brilliant discharge, but it quickly became evident that the hordes were pressing too close. Too many of the front line had broken in fear of the so-called Leviathan and its hordes. Tap ventured a brief thought to what his weapon might do to the enormous creature, but he had more than enough targets of his own to focus on. The beasts were no longer bearing down on the front line. There wasn't much of a front line left at that point. No, they were bearing down on him. Any curiosity he could satisfy with a round to the massive lycanthrope bearing down on their position would be pointless if he would not live long enough to make use of whatever observations he made. The enemy line bore too close for Tap's liking. Approximately 24 lycanthropes, by only the roughest of estimates, descended on his position, bounding past, over, and through their fallen brethren that littered the no man's land. A glance to his left and right, when adjusting his aim, informed Tap that, at some point, the mercenaries to his immediate left and right had both fled. One even dropped a rather impressively large, solid slug minigun, only man-portable by the standards of a far larger man than Tap himself. What a senseless waste of such an enviable weapon. Unlike them, Tap had no intention of running, not for want of salvation, but for survival. Tap had no intention of dying slower, as those melee fighters who broke rank and fled, only to be immediately cut down for foolishly turning their backs to a lycanthrope, had learned the hard way. Tap brought the Mark I's barrel in for a sharp-angled shot to the left. He made no specific attempt to lock onto a target. He wouldn't need to. While adjusting the aim, he reached into the Mark I's still exposed internal workings. A swift pull at a pair of intertwined wires later, the shot was prepared. The palm-sized digital display on the side of the weapon lost power and reverted to a dead black miniature monitor. Before placing his shot, Tap gave a glance up the field. Much to his surprise, some fighters still remained. Their agility was impressive, almost enough to render these figures as blurs in the distance they were at. While they had given ground, every sharp movement they made left another of the lycanthropes to collapse. It would almost be a shame, but they were dead men anyway. Tap pulled back the Mark I's trigger, firing a beam to the hard left. Whether the shot had a lycanthrope or not was irrelevant, as the beam refused to dissipate as Tap let the trigger up, as he had planned. This gave him a rather unique offensive option. Tap swung the back end of the weapon from right to hard left along its rotary axis, dragging its merciless, atomizing ray right. In just a single shot, technically speaking, an entire horde collapsed. Moreover, if the Zongrit priest were to be believed, 3 valiant Voidwalkers just earned their salvation, and those 3 were just the ones he could see from his position. The beam persisted, continuing to release blazing white death from its barrel directly into the abyss. Tap finally put a stop to it by reaching into the Mark I's inner workings and with a single sharp pull, removing the crystal. Tap's weapon still hummed at the unbridled assault that it had unleashed, but the devastation came to a halt. It was with this crystal's light that Tap was able to perceive what passed above. No, you selfish, weak, mune fools! All is lost. We are damned. The aptly named Leviathan would have blended into the abyss, were it not for its underbelly reflecting an indigo luster from the light of the Hadron crystal Tap held. By simple estimation, it was difficult to tell how broad the serpentine beast was, but while it was difficult to estimate the creature's width, determining its length would prove impossible. Its body reached back into the mausoleum, beyond the Hadron crystal's light. Its passing was almost majestic, as if the Voidwalkers and entities that had halted its brethren were too insignificant to waste energy on. Or possibly it simply didn't notice. It continued to move past the broken great Aegis, and move, and move. It took Tap long enough to wonder how long this beast was, before the visible section of its body finally began to clearly become increasingly narrower. It wouldn't be long after that before its length finally terminated at the end of a thin tail. Scene change. And that's all. After divulging what he could recall from his once-in-a-dozen-lifetimes encounter, Tap expected a response from the creature who had moments ago corroborated his account. What he didn't expect was a response from Lana. The girl wiped her eyes with a stroke of her forearm. That's all you did. You just watched it fly past. You didn't even try to stop it. Perhaps your sporadic attentiveness resulted in you not hearing that my position was being overrun at the time. Sounds to me like a fancy way of admitting you covered your own ass. As soon as Tap heard the words, he felt his spine slam back against a cargo crate. The girl moved like a blur. No, blurs leave trails. Like a flicker. In one location at one instant, in another location at another instant. That motion again. Did she even realize what she was doing? If that motherfucker was as literal a mother like that waste-of-life lycanthrope was suggesting, then you just admitted to being responsible for the deaths of billions. The Great Aegis failed because of Voidwalkers like you. Every single realm of the goddamn bridge is in as much danger as those in the Mausoleum. Because of Voidwalkers like you. Do you even realize what you did? Ever seen a lycanthrope horde up close and personal? What a volatile, self-centered little wretch. You think you're the only one on the whole bridge to have lost something. It was the chuckle that turned Lana's attention and drew her to the lycanthrope with haste. Shut up! There were more than just things to me, you fucking cripple-thrope! Fortunately for Tap, Lana had not resorted to using her supernatural chronoflux abilities as she brought her thermal blade above her head, ready to bring a premature, unearned coup de grace to the suffering lycanthrope. Tap grabbed the girl by whatever solid grip he thought he could get first. He grabbed a fistful of her collar before launching her back into a heavy crate that only shifted slightly at the impact. The impact left her momentarily dazed, long enough for Tap to close the distance. With both her hands grasping at the sword, Tap was easily able to grab hold of Lana's wrists and suspend her hands above her head, helplessly pinning her to the makeshift wall with just his left hand. With his right hand, he leveled his revolver and sat the tip of the barrel against one of the girl's eyes. Having rendered her essentially helpless, Tap took his time in pulling back the hammer with his thumb. Bring harm to my informant, and I will see to it that pieces of you are scattered in the luggage of this freighter and spread to the corners of the Infinity Bridge. Do the words I speak lack sufficient clarity? The trail of warm saliva slid down the ridge of Tap's nose. You think I'm scared of you? She responded. You think pointing a gun at your problems until they go away makes you all big and tough? Well, you're not. You're not even that special. You're just a sick, barbaric little fuck like all the rest. Something about the way this girl carried herself compelled Tap to lower his weapon, perhaps as a modicum of respect for her courage, perhaps as a means to prove her wrong. Before responding, he lowered his weapon and wiped the vulgar display of defiance off his face. How did you suppose the lycanthropes made the gains they did? Are you even for real? She challenged him back facetiously. You're seriously going to try to pin your assholeness on them? How fucked up is it that between you and that lycanthrope, the lycanthrope isn't the one trying to use violence to get what it wants? Violence is the Voidwalker way, is it not? I speak in threats because they are your native tongue. And in many cases, it is the only tongue that Voidwalkers understand. It is because of this very manner of quarreling and bickering endemic to our kind that we are losing this war to these damnable animals. You say it like they're nothing but killer gerbils, Lana retorted. Fighting them isn't as easy as you think. I've seen what happens with better Voidwalkers than you'll ever be try their damnedest to fight back. only to die fighting anyway. No matter what, the lycanthropes are just bigger, stronger, faster, tougher. Tap sneered at the girl, shaking his head in disapproval. Hey, fuck you! It's not our fault! We're getting butchered out there because the lycanthropes are better than us! They're better than the best and brightest we have to offer, and I bet you they're a hell of a lot better than some fancy-talking asshole like you. Despite his disapproval, Tap released the girl's arms anyway. Clearly, she was under such constricting limitations that any force Tap could impose on her would be redundant. He turned his back on her, confident that she was no threat. Not now, not ever. Not to anyone with a modicum of good sense. You are pitiful, Voidwalker Lana. I have never acknowledged a lycanthrope as my superior, nor will I ever. I will fight the lycanthropes in your stead, and I will hunt their entire blighted species to extinction, even if I must do so without your aid. Tap was only able to take a single step away before Lana's next vocal intrusion. Holy shit, you're serious? Something about the inflection of her tone had shifted, something he only permitted himself to ponder because efficiency and brevity would not propel the Jerian along its course at any greater velocity. You're just going to get yourself killed if you try to go out there on your own. Only if you stand in my way. You and the Voidwalkers who came before you have made many errors that I will not repeat. When the Jerian reaches the Zeta District, I will move the lycanthrope on my own. I will not make the mistake of asking anything more of you again. You've squandered enough of my time. Scene change. As the Jerian's engine was whirred to a stop, the door let out a loud hum as the cargo bay ramp lowered. Tap descended down the ramps first, pushing a levitating cart with a white sheet draped over its lumpy cargo. Lana took in a deep gulp as Tap turned his back to her for what could have been the last time she would ever see him. And good riddance. But she had to get off the ship sooner or later, and so Lana walked into the bright, stinging white light of the outside world, a jarring contrast with the blood-red emergency lights in the cargo bay that her eyes had gotten used to. She gave Shield's hand a brief squeeze before finally willing herself to follow Tap out. She shielded her eyes with her arm as she left before adjusting to the new light sources. A series of bright lamps ran down the hastily paved asphalt road. With a bustling crowd trampling over it, Lana probably wouldn't have even seen the street if she hadn't been standing on it herself. Welcome aboard the void ship Jerian. You may enter the cabin here, if you require. Lana turned her head off to the side, just barely able to pick out the Void Admiral's speech through the noises of a bustling street. Civilian district indeed. Of the few individuals Lana could pick out of the crowd, it would have been hard to miss the bright red scales of the Zongrit as they waded through the humanity around them like a dirty river. One of the approaching creatures effortlessly hauled a giant square crate over its back, exactly like the crates from in the back of the ship. Sure, they could have grabbed some of the hover carts too, but knowing them, they probably just wanted to show off how strong they were. Remind any would-be agitators how badly trying to fuck with them would end. As it marched out the end of a crowd, it drew the eyes of every poor soul it passed by. Even as they continued to stare at it, they kept their distance as much as they could. The Zongrit didn't make an imposition of itself, at least, moving with purpose towards the back of the ship, towards her. She didn't even notice how close it got until she felt the heat in the air. It didn't seem to notice her, but Lana backed away anyway. It seemed to work for the crowds. As she backed off, she tripped on a crack in the road and fell backwards. Right on her ass. Smooth moves, princess. As it passed by, it loomed over her like a tower. A big, red, staring, observing, judging tower. Lana got back to her feet, but made sure to do so slowly and steadily. No sudden movements, no fighting back. She even left Shield lying on the ground as she stood up, doing everything she could to not give it a reason to attack. Hey, I'm just passing through. I don't want any trouble. As she turned her head in the creature's direction, Lana yelped a bit at the sudden loud bellow. Shut up, it was loud. You'd squeal like a little girl, too. But immediately after that quick roar, the heat broke. As Lana looked back at the menacing creature again, it simply walked past her and up the Gerion's ramp, letting out a low, guttural chuckle as it left. As Lana scooped up Sheol, she momentarily considered telling Chucklesaurus to go fuck himself, but knowing the Zongrit, they probably would if they could. But instead, Lana just filed the slide away in her mind, planning to take it out on the next lycanthrope she'd see. Those shits were in zero danger of going extinct. Well, unless... Lana scanned the crowd of people around her. She looked left, right, then left again. She tried to stand on her tiptoes, leaping up to try and see over the crowd. Hop, hop, hop. I should take care not to step on such a tiny creature. Lana craned her neck as the Zongrit stood behind her, continuing to taunt her. Probably that same damn one. Yeah, well, go get hit by lightning. Lana let slip, not realizing she'd said aloud until she heard the Zongrit. Laugh? Lana glanced back, only to see the thing standing over her, looking out over the crowd. It stood silent for a moment, still as a statue. You seek the foul abomination? Yeah, and the lycanthrope carcass he's carting around, Lana remarked. Ah, rare is the Mion with so rich with wit, it responded. Lana found it hard to tell whether it was being sarcastic or not through that naturally gravelly snarl, but it turned away and walked off before she had too long to consider it. The Augmetic subdistrict. Follow the smell. Lana stared back at the Zongrit with what she imagined was probably a pretty quizzical expression on her face. Oh, first time as a Zongrit actually helped me out, she muttered unguardedly. That you know of, the Zongrit responded cryptically as it walked off. Crap, she said that last part out loud again, didn't she? And that's part 2.
Very nice. I liked it.
This one you get a lot more Lana and Taps Past, and by about part 3, you're going to understand why I hate this segment so much.
Why you hate what?
Why I hate this particular segment I'm reading so much.
Well, I certainly enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yeah, I did. Those mercenaries at the beginning, are they part of like a penal detachment?
No, they're just like hired sellswords. It's like you come in, we essentially like bless you. Sort of a crusade sort of deal.
I see.
Like Crusaders for hire?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
My
they
late
were hired,
Lutheran
but and
upbringing
like
fulfilling
yeah,
indulgences.
Indulgences indeed.
Oh yes, the restless spirit of Martin Luther is awakened.
Kane or King Jr.?
It's not the religion live stream yet. That's not till Thursday.
Oh,
we can excommunicate each other then.
Excommunicate! Excommunicate!
oh yeah.
I read that in a Futurama comic joke once.
Oh, I want to get in on that.
I do quite enjoy those very, very amusing stories of the Catholic Church's past, especially during the Great Schism. The Great Schism's hilarious.
Unfortunately, a family emergency has come up, so I have to go.
Well, that's okay.
Well,
See
at
ya,
least you
Kaiju.
got to read.
Yeah.
Take care of your emergency.
All right, later,
All the
guys.
time.
Well, may you always find a city to destroy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I have no problem with that.
Yeah, and in this chapter, you're also starting to get a brief idea of generally what the themes of science and sorcery are.
But Drake, themes are for 8th grade book reports.
Yeah, well, guess what grade I was in when I started this?
Oh yeah. Yep. All right. So is it my turn now?
Yep.
I believe it is.
All right. This is a continuation of the story I presented last week, The Magic Stone. Now, if you recall from last week, little Avi and Kit just went running through the woods to find a beautiful blue stone that glows with an unnatural light and may or may not attract dragons. Kit did not see Avi take the stone, but he is now coming back to camp. And so we resume our tale. Kit marched through the woods toward the camp with a dozen heavy water skins and a satisfied smirk on his face. Avi hadn't heard him sneaking up behind her. That look on her face had said it all. She'd been taken completely by surprise. She hadn't even suspected a thing when he tossed a rock into a bush behind her. Any experienced hunter would have immediately recognized it as a distraction. Girls were so stupid. Well, Avi was different. Kit didn't really mind her so much. She'd always been fun to be around. Well, she was stupid, yes, like all girls were, but not boring stupid like most of the other girls in camp, and especially not like that one chick he'd been betrothed to since birth, whatever her name was. Avi was just fun stupid. Yeah, that was a thing, wasn't it? Fun stupid? Kit shrugged. If it wasn't already a thing, it should be. He would just have to see about that when he became chief. The chief always got his way. Finally, Kit emerged from the woods and found himself standing before the campsite. A cluster of several dozen buck-hide tents just at the bottom of the steep slope at the edge of the valley. The camp was full of people going about their tasks for the journey tomorrow. The air was filled with the buzz of conversation and heavy with the sweet scent of meat curing in the smoke tents. Kit made his way through the tents to the spot where the supplies for the journey were being assembled. He set the water skins down beside a stack of buck-hide bundles. Kit glanced about to make sure that nobody was watching him and quickly slipped his hand into one of the bundles and pulled out a strip of venison. He stuffed the strip of meat greedily into his mouth. Venison was his favorite. "Kit," a woman's voice said from behind him, "are you sneaking meat from the travel packs?" Kit jumped at the voice, but he remained calm as he turned to face his accuser. "No, ma'am," he said, innocently as he could manage, with a strip of venison spilling out of his mouth. The woman shook her head. "Go on, get out of here." Kit smiled and sauntered away. He had nothing to hide. And what was her problem anyway? She was the same age as Avi. Kit could remember just a few moons ago when she had been just another stupid girl giggling right along with the rest of them. But now that she was married and starting to get fat, she acted like she was somehow better than him. You see, girls were so stupid. "And you mind your manners," the woman called back. "We have a guest in camp." "What sort of guest?" Kit said, swallowing. "He's a storyteller," the woman said, "from far-off lands. So if you're on your best behavior, then maybe—" Kit never heard the end of her sentence. He dashed off through the camp to find this storyteller. Well, he might be in the Elder's tent. Guests were always brought to the Elder's tent first. And even if this storyteller wasn't in there, someone would probably know where he'd gone. The Elder's tent was by far the largest tent in camp, big enough for all 9 of the elders and the chief to sit in a circle around the fire inside it. It was always set up at the center, the first to go up and the last one to come down before traveling. Kit wasn't allowed to be inside, of course. Tradition said that women and children were forbidden from entering the elder's tent. Of course, tradition had never stopped Kit before, and today would be no exception. "Is it true?" Kit asked breathlessly as he pressed out through the buckskin flap that covered the doorway. "Is there really a storyteller in camp?" 11 faces all turned to stare at him. 10 of them wore the faces that burned with indignation, but Kit didn't pay them any heed. They always looked like that when he was around. No, Kit's attention was concentrated on the 11th man, a tall, lanky fellow, younger by at least 10 winters than the next youngest man in the tent. His hair was red, short, and untidy, like a warrior who had not cut his hair for several moons, and his skin was noticeably lighter in shade than any Kit had ever seen before. Was he sick? Would he have to stay for a few months? Oh, there'd be so many stories that way. This had to be him. There was no question. The man laughed and clutched at a bandage on his right arm. My reputation precedes me. Kit! Another man shouted. How dare you intrude upon a meeting of the elders? Kit turned to look at the man, his father, the chief. Leave us at once! But Dad, Kit protested. At once, his father ordered, brandishing a spear-like finger toward the exit. Kit turned about and shuffled away. It wasn't fair. Why did tradition have to be so stupid like that? Well, Kit would have to be chief one day, wouldn't he? So he needed to know all about the sort of things that a chief had to know. Well, he hadn't come for that, of course. He just wanted to know if the storyteller was in camp. But that wasn't the point. He was being treated like a child, and he hated it. Later tonight, kid, the storyteller called out. You'll get your story out of me, don't worry. Kit turned around, grinned at the storyteller, and then darted back under the buckskin flap before anyone could protest. Just outside the tent, Kit sat down and tried not to make a sound, positioning his ear as close as he could without disturbing the hide. It was more than enough for his hearing, sharpened by many seasons of stalking deer and small animals. He could pick up everything coming from inside the tent. Please forgive the intrusion, Brannock, his father was saying. I will impress upon my son the importance of... It's fine, don't worry about it, the storyteller said. Brannock, that must have been his name. Kit would remember it. Now then, an old woman said. No, not a woman, Kit reminded himself. An elder. She wasn't a woman anymore. Let us continue our discussion. How many of them did you count? About 24, Brannock said. There could have been a few more than that, but not much. And they didn't see you, another elder said. They weren't tracking you, were they? Believe me, if they were tracking me, they would have gotten me already. Brannock laughed slightly. Still, one of the other elders said, 24 or more. That presents a considerable danger. And you say they were moving south? Kit's father said. When last I saw them, yeah, they were moving south. I think we can avoid them easily enough, one of the other elders said. We'll need to go a little out of our way, but we should be able to slip by undetected. Do you intend to travel with us? Kit's father said. There can be security in numbers. Ooh, Kit could barely keep from squealing with delight. There would be stories for weeks if Brannock was traveling with them. It's kind to you, but I don't think so. I got my own path I need to follow, Brannock said. Well, I guess one story would have to do. Kit stood up and wandered away from the elder's tent. He didn't understand what else they were talking about, and honestly, it didn't matter. He'd probably understand all that stuff once he became chief. And if he didn't understand it, well, his father would have joined the elders by then, and he could always get advice from him. As Kit reached the edge of camp, he noticed Avi coming out of the forest with the last of the waterskins. Had she heard about the storyteller yet? He had to tell her. Hey, Avi! Avi jumped and nearly dropped the waterskins. Oh, Kit, she stammered. What's going on? How are things? There's a storyteller in camp, Kit said. A traveling storyteller. Really? Avi's eyes lit up with delight. She loved hearing stories as much as he did. Where? He's in the elder's tent right now, Kit said. You want to listen in? Oh, hang on, Avi said, indicating her armful of waterskins. Let me just get these to the supply pile. Oh, I'll take those, Kit said, holding out his arms for the waterskins. You just go right to the elder's tent. I'll join up with you there. Avi smiled warmly and passed her load of waterskins to him. Kit tried not to smile back. He quickly looked away. Girls were stupid, yes, but you had to be careful around them, or else you could end up being just as stupid. Kit dashed through the camp to the supply pile. He set down the waterskins beside the rest, sneaking another strip of venison out of the travel packs as he did. And once that was taken care of, he made his way back to the elder's tent, where he found Avi lying on the ground, her ear pressed to the canvas just as he had done. Kit plopped himself down against the canvas of the tent so that he faced her head on. Avi greeted him with another warm smile, and they lay there listening to the sound of the elders debating what to do about this or that. It was just nice to be around Avi like this. Maybe Kit could be a storyteller when he was older. Avi would like that. She always loved hearing stories. Kit had already memorized a few stories, small ones, of course, about how the stars got their names, the kinds that you told to young children after a long day's journey. But if Kit could memorize one of the big ones, the epic adventures that everyone circled around the fire to hear, well, then Avi would be really impressed. Could a chief also be a storyteller? Kit thought hard for a moment. He was going to be chief when he was older, and being a chief was a very important job. What if he didn't have the time to dedicate to storytelling? His father was always busy with something or other. What if Kit was just as busy when he became chief? Kit shrugged. He was probably overthinking it. Of course there was a way of being both a chief and a storyteller. And if there wasn't, well, he would make it happen. That was the sort of thing a chief would do. And that's part 2.
That was interesting.
It's got a
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Even though I missed the first part.
Neph, you have
I
something
didn't
of a
feel
heavenly
lost,
echo.
so.
You have something of a heavenly echo right now. You have something of a heavenly echo.
I just heard echo. Is that echo
I don't think it's me.
Oh, interesting.
Well, it's gone now.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. I'm getting kind of a Conan the Barbarian like time period feel from it. Is that where you're going for?
Well, it is sort of meant to be. I got the idea from probably from the idea of Sword of Shannara about how it's post-apocalyptic technically, but sufficiently post that civilization has reasserted itself.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And I came up with the notion that like in the distant future, humans are no longer the dominant species on the planet, and they are reduced to traveling in little tribes, hiding away from dragons and goblins and harpies and mermaids and things like that.
Is that why?
Nice.
Because I was wondering. Sorry, because at one point the kid used the word "chick," and that sounded very modern. Use a reference.
Oh yeah, I think that was a goof from an earlier draft that snuck in here.
Well, let's see fix.
It's still
So-
it's still a good story though.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, it's a good story.
Thank you, Wolf.
thanks. Yeah.
As I was saying, he sounded very simple-minded. Keeps saying that girls are stupid. Is he
Yeah,
afraid of being
that's
something?
deliberate. That's part of his character. He's a young kid.
He's a
You
bit
know.
of a jerk.
He's at that age when you're just starting to awaken to these mysterious creatures that girls are supposed to be.
But in the meantime, they have duties and they're idiots.
You know, but you're still trying to put on that cool. I'm a manly man. Like you do when you're young.
Basically, he's 13.
13. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
wondering. It sounded like
Basically.
it was 13 when you said all that stuff. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
13.
Yeah, 13-year-old
Holy
boys
shit.
are stupid.
Avi is 16.
Oh wow, she's way older than he is then.
Mm-hmm.
So he is.
So does he think that girls get stupid with age or something?
So he's going. So he's
Well,
going. For the older
there is
chick.
that son
I
about how
can
this
relate.
girl was married and starting to get fat.
I can definitely relate wanting the older woman. I can for sure.
So, married and fat. No, that sounds like married and pregnant to me.
That
you
is
know,
the
I always
implication.
thought that women get pregnant by just eating lots and lots of food.
Or by kissing.
They finally can let themselves go.
I thought the stork brought babies.
A riddle for the ages.
I mean, women get like weird food cravings, so it only made sense to my very small mind at the time.
Does the food turn into a baby then?
Alrighty. Yeah. So, okay. So it's like kind of sort of Shannara slash is it like frontier line tech, like, or is it like more kind of medieval?
There is no technology in this particular era.
Oh, okay.
It's just like I think the Conan is a good idea of where the technology is. Not necessarily in the aesthetic of the characters, but as in terms of technology, yeah, I would say that.
So like kind of the so the Hyborian Age type stuff where it's like there's like remnants of old tech, but it seems as though there's just some like most of it seems like it's this like strange mystical stuff that's been left over from like the broken remnants of civilization.
Oh, like the battery.
Well, there's also magic.
Ah, nice.
The stone is magic.
Oh, it's not a battery.
Hence the title, the Magic Stone.
So it really is magic. It's not a battery then.
Yeah.
No comment.
Let's go with that.
Yeah.
Let's just stick with that.
Yeah.
Let's just stick with diabetes land.
Yeah.
I don't know who here has heard of Studio C, but it's quite amusing. Anyway, I believe it's Kishu's turn.
Kisho. Anyway, yeah.
Kishu.
Before I start, has anyone ever heard or read of Hills Like White Elephants?
Nope.
By something Cunningham, I think. Let me check real quick. Ernest Hemingway, excuse me. So yeah, when I wrote this for I got an honorable mention in a college specific writing contest years ago when I was still in college, so it was kind of pretty good, but not perfect enough to earn me $1,000 at the time. I felt kind of miffed about it, but obviously if it's thought to be almost good compared to so many others, like there was one other honorable mention at the time, then I guess it's okay to share. Anyway, here I go. It's called Charity Inn, and it's 12 pages, a short story. Like I hope to write more of it and make it kind of like a short sort of novel. But anyway, here I go. Time seemed to stand still in a patch of land, far away from any town or village. There stood a shabby old house, long forgotten as no one was around. It was a simple household with 2 floors. Its several windows were piled with dust at the outer edges. The door had seen far better days. The grass around the house was fresh and green, but it had grown wild with weeds and flowers in such an unattended space. The growth had turned some parts into a beautiful field of flowers whose pollen spread for miles. A lone tree had grown tall and broad over the years, its leaves still ripe and fresh because of the spring season. It stood proudly behind the humble household. Its shade cast both east and west of the building. To the side of the house lay an oblong-shaped body of water, murky yet natural in the elements around it. Was this scene a sight to behold? Was this scene both a sight to behold and a sight to pity? Despite such beautiful scenery, not a soul had stepped, let alone slept, in the house for years. In a never-ending time of sunrises and sunsets, time passes slowly. Scenes had come and gone in fleeting moments, but the house stood still stood, silent and empty. In the distance, a pair of adventurers, wander through the grass, weary and fatigued from their long journey. Spying the lonely house from the distance, they quicken their tired, casual pace to a frantic rush as they look up, excitement and relief evident in their expressions. I can't believe we actually found a house out here, the first traveler, an unruly and heavy-cloaked male, pants in his runs, soft beds, a warm bath, and no mercenaries chasing us. The second traveler, a feisty female, cheered. Thank the gods for this place. As they approached the house, they slowed to walking pace again, gasping for breath. The male traveler stood tall, at least a foot taller than the woman, and was covered head to toe in a green cloak. His rugged face was tired, partially obscured from the shade under his matching green plume hat. The woman was wearing a worn-out dress, messy with dirt spots and tears. Her long red hair was uneven, sweaty from the sun and some exhausting tasks, yet still was radiant. The man removed his hood, staring around the area before him. He walked to the door and knocked it 3 times. The door stood patiently for several minutes before the man knocked again. There was still no answer. Hello? Anybody? He started fiddling with the door handle, which was, much to his surprise, unlocked. Home? Okay, I'm pausing real quick because I'm hearing some sort of disturbance in the background. Thank you. The man and woman exchanged glances before walking in. The inside of the house was spacious yet dank from the years it had spent alone. The room on the far left side had a long table and at least a dozen wooden chairs, old and rickety as they come. Next to them were a few counters and food cabinets, partly covered with dust and cobwebs. The far right, in contrast, had multiple beds in whatever space available. 2 of the largest beds were placed on either end of the far end of the house, while smaller singular beds were between them. There was no other room besides a set of stairs that climbed both up and down, seen opposite of the door, directly behind the desk in front of them. Hello? The man asked again, glancing nervously around the room. There was still no answer. They exchanged glances again, perplexed. They started searching the building. The man searched the ground floor while his female companion climbed the stairs. The inside was unsightly up close, as it was from a distance. The tables and chairs were sturdy yet old. The cabinets were filled with cobwebs and dust again, and the bed sheets and pillows hadn't been cleaned in what the pair assumed for weeks. The male, after vainly opening all the cabinets and finding nothing, reached over and pressed his palm to the flat of the mattress. To his relief, it wasn't wet or crawling with bugs, just dusty. Meanwhile, upstairs, the female companion called out for someone, anyone, to show up. The second floor appeared much more formal than the lower one. It had a large open floor space and a small collection of tables surrounding the center area. So now what? The man said. The woman scowled and said, What do you mean, now what? Well, the man said in reply, it looks like no one has been here for years. I'm sure we can hide out here for a while and they'll forget all about us. First of all, this is the Guild of the Dark Eye that's chasing us. I checked my sources these guys several times and heard plenty of rumors that anyone and everyone that crosses them in any of their covert meetings winds up dead. We gave him the slip, though, the man retorted. So has everyone else has thought that. Before their corpses are framed against their dungeon walls, there's still that barfly hero guy. They're after him too, right? The woman rolled her clear blue eyes. Not that'll stop him from chasing us on the side. And second of all, this place is horrible to hide out in. You don't know that, the man countered. We've been running along this route for miles, and the closest thing we saw to civilization were 2 coaches passing our path the other way. No one's been here for years, most likely, and there's not even any sort of food supply, let alone water. Well, there's the pond behind the house here. You expecting to bathe in a moldy old pond? The male raised a thick eyebrow. Bath? I thought we were gonna drink from it. The woman sighed as she pinched the bridge of her nose. We can't use the pond to both drink and bathe in. Why not? It's not like I would use it as a toilet. It's still not sanitary. I wouldn't want to drink the same water that was used to clean up my dirt blood and get sick. Why not filter some of it and bring it in here? We could, had you remembered to pack some tools or gems before running off. The dark eyes chasing us, and we couldn't get everything. I managed to pack the essentials in my bag at least. You call a bunch of knives, books, and cinnamon apple breadsticks essentials. He cringed a bit, shifting his shoulder back awkwardly. I liked the town brand they were selling and knew we probably wouldn't be able to go back anytime soon. So I brought them. There's more to life than some apple-filled bread, she sighed. I mean, what am I, chopped liver? Hey, that's hardly fair. I do care about you. It's just I don't want to lose one of my favorite things in the world. Their argument, and the woman's retort cut short by the sound of knocking, and a voice from the lower floor. Hello? Anyone home? The duo exchanged brief yet perplexed glances. They climbed down the stairway to find a struggling lean man with an oversized bag strapped to his chest. The man had evident pattern of yellow and green. Yellow hair, green eyes. Yellow skin, green coat. Yellow pants, green shoes. Yellow backpack, green hat. He rasped his breath like a runner, legs shaking and back hunched. I would like Directoroo, please, the backpacker asked politely. He struggled to stand and fell with the straps over his shoulders indecisively. A smile grew on the man's face. Why, of course! How long will you be staying with us? His female companion stared with a surprise and clear concern. The backpacker smile brightened. A few days just to plan my route and double-check my wares. How much? Well, I believe a daily fee would be at least... The woman nudged his elbow, still staring at him. He side-glanced at her quickly, but spoke again to the young man. At least... Another nudge. The travel-worn woman stared and frowned intently, a silent plea voiced to him and only him. Her companion violently exchanged glances, and a similar frown spread across his features as well. At least? The man sighed and broke contact. Nothing. He paused. We're just having to find this place ourselves, and no one's been here for years, most likely. The backpacker paled. But I can still rest here, right? Can I? Just because you are in pain doesn't mean we're going to kick you out, the woman smiled. We have to be in the same situation, more or less, and there's plenty of beds to house 24 people. Ah, good, the backpacker heaved. That's a relief. I'll just go and set my things down then. Yeah, go do that. The yellow-green lad grabbed both of his shoulder straps and marched forward. The weight and size of his bulging pack shifted uneasily as he moved towards the right side of the end with the beds. Choosing the closest one, he straightened his back and took a deep breath. He then slowly lowered himself and slipped his arms out of the strap as the bag gently lay on the floor. Not long after, he stretched his back and arms in intention-relieving motions, smiling. Ah, that's much better. You sure carried a lot of stuff, the woman noted with a side glance. You probably didn't travel very far, though, her companion stressed to her. Actually, it was a very long and strenuous journey from the north, the young green and yellow cloth man explained. I was just traveling to a few places, a fallen society that held some artifacts. Artifacts? Like what? Just about anything you could think they do. Just about anything you think they can do. Some with curses, others work like charms, and a good law of them made to fight against monsters in treacherous dungeons. They'll be good use to me. For what? Why, for profit, of course! I imagine I can get at least 1,000 gold coins for every artifact I find, with interest at the stakes, of course. 1,000 gold? Who would pay that much for all trinkets? I imagine the Butterfly Hero would. The clock duo's eyes widened as they exchanged quick glances. You risk your neck to sell stuff to the Butterfly Hero. Why not join his merry band on his merry quest? There are many, many, many reasons against that seemingly simple suggestion, I assure you, said the young man. But I'll just point out the key ones. I can't get a profit of it, especially with the thorough, specialized team being tailed by the Dark Eye. I'm sure you can get as much mind-killing monsters as the you come across as you do selling such wares. I mean, people find things in them that are worth quite a bit. Now, and the fact that you face a lot of them, I'm also a finder, not a fighter, the backpacker quickly told them. Merchants have little need or use to someone as regal as the Butterfly Hero's ensemble. You seem pretty sure of that. As I should. I happen to sold a few of my wares before him back home. Again, the duo was surprised. Wait, you actually met the Butterfly Hero? Yes, and he was about as feeble as everyone says last I saw him. He pulled out a notebook from the top flap of his backpack before answering. A month ago. I would assume he hasn't matured enough to make an active threat to the Dark Eye yet. How do you know it was specifically him? He was carrying a golden-tinted medallion with a few colors decorated on it. I'm an artisan and a merchant, so I tend to have a sense about valuable items that would be worth a fortune. I was so overcome by the keepsake that I lost sense of time. Eventually, his group left my store. I figure I could help out more going around and collecting some heroic stuff that might have been overlooked. That's considerate, I suppose. Honestly, I'm surprised to see this little house so far out here. It certainly will be a nice rest up before finishing the trip to the town east of here. The male frowned slightly. You better not go east. The seller blinked uneasily at them. Why not? The woman spoke up right after. It's not safe for anyone at the moment. Mornarn, I mean. The seller nodded with understanding. Yes, Mornarn. I do recall some rumors about the revelation in the Guild of the Dark Eye based there. Anyway, where are you two headed? Far, the male said. Somewhere where we can get some supplies and rest. Maybe stretch our muscles too, just in case. Problem is, there isn't another town for miles, the female explained. We found this place by luck, like you. I suggest the Dark Eye camp up north then. The duo shifted uneasily. What for? The seller patted his giant backpack with a smirk. They have enough weapons themselves and food to make any long journey bearable, since they're meant to survive raids and maintain a garrison. Some of my stuff came from there, actually. When they just run out? She asked with a skeptic tone. They restock whenever they're able. The Dark Eye Guild has all sorts of resources like that. The duo glanced at each other unknowingly, and the seller watched them with confusion. Well, think about it, the one promised. Right now, we just need to work on sleeping here. Fair enough, the seller nodded. Oh, and since we'll be sleeping here for a while, the name's Artie. The male paused, with a scrunched brow on his features, then gave way to a smile moments later. I'm Apple, and this is my girlfriend, Cinnamon. Cinnamon's lips twitched once in her smile. Charmed. The next hours flew by as the trio guests worked to prepare their stay. Artie had spare cooking supplies, was willing to make dinner, with a passing joke of being paid first, and had left Cinnamon to borrow his filtering tools to work on the pond water for drinkable canteens. Apple also used the pond water to clean sheets next to Cinnamon, then hanging them up to dry. He was saying the 6 sheet on the tree branch when his friend called out to him. Why'd you tell him that? Apple turned, confused. Tell who what? Cinnamons eyes rolled to the side. I understand the idea of using fake names, but did you really have to go for Apple and Cinnamon? She blinked as soon as she finished the sentence. Apple? Cinnamon? Were you seriously thinking of those filled treats you eat so much? Well, it was on the spot, you know, Apple shrugged. If I hesitated any more, then that Artie guy would have been suspicious, the female sighed. This is a sad and lowly hole we've fallen into. Running for our lives like bandits, unable to use our real names. I'm sorry. You know I never meant for you to get into this. It's fine, really. The silence reigned, and they slowly fell into routine again. Just promise me one thing. Anything. We only have each other to trust and support from here on out. She glanced over her shoulder to the window, seeing Artie happily cook, at least on a conscious level. You won't leave me on my own. Will you? That never even crossed my mind. But if there was some circumstance, I promise it won't come to that. A sigh was heard, and a soft smile graced her lips. Thank you, Apple. Apple nodded back. Man, Apple, you have a point there. It's going to take some getting used to hearing that for a name. Cinnamon chuckled and resumed filtering. Hours continued to pass, and by evening, a trio set up dinner at the long table on the first floor. Already prepared for them a cuisine of chewy meat under melting pasta, as is what he calls a half-assed attempt at still delicious lasagna, along with drinks of filtered water and a few slices of fresh bread, courtesy of Apple whined a nice and neat meal. Dinner was served. You certainly weren't boasting, Apple said. I never tasted something so messy yet so good at the same time. Indeed, Cinnamon nodded with earnest table manners. What is your secret? Trial and error, Artie smiled. I can never make the stuff the right way because they end up oblong or overstuffed. I start making it to my advantage to try and present bad-looking food in a good way. I would love to learn how to make this myself, she admitted as she reached for her drink. Can you teach me? Trust me, I think very abnormally compared to most people. I tried teaching once, but what is considered easy for me could basically be a whole other language to someone else. If you really want to cook, I think I have a cookbook or two that I can sell to you. 400 gold each. Cinnamon's eyes bulged and her glass in her hand shifted. And she started to cough loudly. The attention drew attention from two men, but she held her head down and stayed in the motions. Eventually she calmed down and took another sip, as if she hadn't almost choked. Her mouth twitched. That's expensive. I'm a traveling merchant trying to get by. So, you want a book or not? Pass. Huh, your loss. The rest of the meal was in silence. Artie repacked his food supplies. Apple cleaned and stacked the plates from some of the cupboards back into their place. And Cinnamon called first dibs on bathing at the pond. She stressed the point of no peeking, so the men passed the time with a game of chess. That Cinnamon sure is anything but sweet, Artie casually said, moving a knife forward to the side. But I would assume you already know that. Apple's brows twitched as his hand moved to his bishop. What's that supposed to mean? Given how snippy she can be, I wouldn't be surprised if you haven't gotten to her pants yet. Pawn moves forward. I hardly feel inclined to tell you about my sex life. Knight takes pawn. Not that I have one. Besides, you'd be cranky too if you had to make a cross-country journey on certain circumstances. Bishop takes knight. What circumstances? Where are you two from, anyway? Rook takes bishop. Then adjacent pawn takes rook. Oh, come on! Not my fault you're letting yourself open. Artie smiled at the military victory. Now, you were saying? Apple's finger tapped on the board in a thinking tempo. The silence of the room drew Artie's attention to the roof. There was a faint sound of pelting the house that echoed outward. Apple's shoulders then gave a shrugging motion as he picked another pawn and moved forward. It's complicated. I've heard that excuse before. It's only complicated to people that don't like to think. Knight moves back to block bishop. Despite your physical attributes, you seem rather competent in the thinking field. Sounds kind of half-assed for a compliment, but I'll take it anyway. Rook moves a space forward. Also, check. See, what did I tell you? You made a comeback. Is that the strategy of a stressed man with complicated problems? I'm not telling you anything, so just play the damn game. Boom! A crackle boomed across the sky outside, and the pelting increased. Huh, some rainstorm we're having. Artie moved his king out of range. Good thing we found this house when we did. Yeah, we'll want to try to hike it all the way to Marbell City. I might move back, but stops mid-move. Apple's eyes widen. Wait, rainstorm? Before Artie could inquire what and why, his opponent bolted out of the door. His frantic rush caused the table and chair to turn, and one stationary chess piece shifted and fell over from the action. The salesman could only blink with neutral gaze before sovereign long after the door opened and collapsed. I was losing, sure, he spoke to himself. That doesn't mean it should end prematurely. A few minutes later, the door opened and closed in quick succession. A doused pair walked in, with the male hovering, partially embracing a naked, shivering female. My clothes. Simon coughed. The kind get blown away. I had to get them before. I got them right here. Apple shifted his elbow. A collection of wet clothes were dripping over his elbow. Come on, I'll help you to your bed. Just need to. Simon sneezed. You need to rest. Artie, you have towels in your pack, right? Artie, who had been staring at Cinnamon, broke gaze at the question directed at him. He simply shrugged and started to pick the chess pieces up. Not for free, that's what you mean. Artie! No need to get snippy at me. You love your woman, I get that. But the only clothes I have that cover the body are tarps, and they're very easy to get wet. I need them to sell at shops for town, and they're a hassle to get dry. It gets worse when there are tears on them. They're not meant to be towels. I just need something to cover up for the night. Apple blinked for a moment. She's not my woman. Then why are you holding her so protectively? And do you call her girlfriend? It's complicated, okay? And she's freezing. Artie smirked. Trying to save your lady from the evil coldness of water, eh? Apple glowered at him, but didn't shit or move his hands around Simmons' body. Artie shrugged to make an offer. Of course, you could always borrow my tarps for, say, 500 gold. Shall exile you, he cursed, and turned from the cellar and carried her carefully up the stairs. They already have, the seller smirked. His expression faltered a bit at his next words. At least from my own home. He eventually finished picking the chess pieces and packing them away in his bag. Deciding against the bath, he simply stripped his shirt and settled with slipping in his pants. He was already setting himself on his bed when Ari climbed downstairs. Not sleeping together, or just keeping up appearances? Salmon insists she'll be okay, said Apple, heading to his own bed, a few spaces down from Artie's. I think a rest would do us all good. All was silent but for the heavy rain tapping the walls and roof monotonously. An occasional crackle startled the two men once or twice. Curious, Artie reached out for the window by his bed and saw a blackening sky with intense pouring rain. By the pond, the tree branches and leaves all vibrating in response to the wind as if trying to be uprooted from the ground. Looks like we won't be leaving here for a while, he observed. Not tonight, anyway, Apple agreed, watching from the same window. You're right, though. We were lucky to find this house when we did. Maybe this place is meant to give wayward travelers a place of sanctuary and hope. Don't tell you believe in destiny or fate. Shadows now. That stuff's meant for legends and heroics. I'm just a salesman hoping to exploit that. I'm not ashamed to admit it. That kind of talk makes you an enemy of the dark eyes, you know. And you would know? Well, people just don't go out of transition without reason. I'm sure everyone has a reason of doing what they do. They just don't tell enough people to be cared about. The rain continues to pour down, and the two men said nothing. They just stare outside the window, watching the storm before them, silent in their own thoughts. Well, best get some sleep now. Good night, Apple. Apple was silent for a moment longer before heading back to his bed. Good night, Artie. And that's it. Sorry if it was a long one.
No, that's okay. I liked it.
Thank you.
It's all right.
Yeah,
So,
longest-
Honestly, it shows its age. Like I've written this like maybe almost 8 years ago. Maybe yeah, I think 8 years ago sounds about pretty much right. That was like when I was in the middle of my college years, and I noticed some spelling or grammar issues as I read it, but I just kind of ad-libbed and added some words as I thought of it. Like I forgot that Apple, as he called himself, introduced Steven as his girlfriend, and then was kind of like insistent, like we're not together, which seemed kind of a contradictory. So I just again ad-libbed when.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I hope to maybe make this into like a short story or kind of series or something, because I was kind of inspired by just not Hills Like White Elephants, but this one game I played, an old RPG on the Wii, Arc Rise Fantasia. Like, you probably heard like how Ignition butchered the localization, like how hilariously bad the dubbing was. But something that I really liked was how there was like these sets of ends that you can go in from the world map that are basically like free places to lounge. People can just come in and go on sort of a trust system, don't even have to pay money, and it's all kind of like they come and go and maintain the place as they like it before going off on their journey. And it kind of, the combination of that and the short story kind of inspired this charity end to come up. Like, if I were to write more of this, the setting would still be at that same house with people coming and going, maybe the same people returning back while they kind of explain what they've seen or heard the real world happening as time moves on. It's kind of like coming and going, a rotating cast, so to speak. And I see that everyone's really silent. I'm not sure if that's
I'm sorry.
We're just listening to you.
Yeah, we're listening.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of feel free.
My thought with it was kind of, so is it basically about a pair of people that are on the run from something?
It's actually about the people that go to the house. Like, obviously it's about the two people and then the salesman, but then more people will show up, and then eventually the couple and the salesman will leave, and some other people will come in and come and go. It'll just be set at the house, and it'll be kind of like the story will be told like the interactions that the people have at that same place.
Who or what are the Dark Eye Guild? Sorry.
Basically, this is supposed to be kind of like a typical fantasy story. Like, I've obviously have more people like kind of explain about them, but I thought it'd be interesting to kind of like see how a typical fantasy setting will be like in the eyes of like normal people or the NPCs or the people that just go to that same place. I might even have like the heroes or even the villains stay at that place while discussing something and explain like their motivations and stuff. Like, there's no omniscient third-person point of view. It's all just like as if we are the audience in the house, and we don't actually hear their thoughts. We just hear and see things that happen in the house, if that makes sense.
An interesting idea, I think.
It is very interesting.
Yeah,
telling
like,
the story from the it's like
from a setting,
like in Star Wars, how the story is told through R2D2 and C3PO's perspective.
More R2 than 3PO, obviously.
Either
Not
way.
that Disney understands that.
Digressing. I just thought it'd be interesting to kind of like play on a usual fantasy story. Like, we've all heard like how many different JRPGs of like some sort of young hero gets this kind of age story, find a big bad organization, but this kind of turns it on its head that we see how the other people kind of deal with like this sort of story happening perpendicular to their own lives, you know?
Okay. Cool.
Sorry if it's still a little confusing. Like, obviously I had plans, but I probably forgot like the little minor details other than like the main gist of what I wanted to do here. And And if I keep rambling, we'd be here all night. So I'll just end it there. Thank you for listening, though.
No problem. It was
No
enjoyable.
worries.
Alrighty, I believe it is the Balarioft curmudgeon's turn.
I'm still eating. Would you like to go first, Lord Commander? Because
Alrighty.
the next 10 minutes.
Well, let me figure out what I would like to read.
Oh wow, we're at the 2-hour mark now.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
come
don't
to think of
think-
it, I may need to tap out for the evening.
Okay. Alrighty, if
Oh.
you need to go,
I don't
go
think
for
we've
it.
ever gone over 2 hours for the showcase before.
I'm
think-
so sorry. I think
didn't
my
think we
story
usually
took the
had 6
longest.
readers.
Yeah.
Oh no, that was actually good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Carl's gone.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
He had to head out.
It's gonna miss that weird party.
Okay, so let me think. I've got a few options. I've got I've done a number of dragon fights, and I've done did a magic duel last week. What would be like? Just kind of, you guys name something off the top of your head, and I'll try and kind of, if the first one has an element that one of my books has, I'll try and find it.
Emotional scene.
Oh.
Like not just romance, but kind of like friendship, kind of character bonding, you know?
Okay. You know what? I have something like that.
Introspective?
I can do a little bit of both. Alrighty, I got something.
Drake, are you still there? Your mic's off.
Yeah, it's just somebody was about to start reading, so I muted it.
Oh, okay. You ready?
I do that too.
Alrighty, let me.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm a bit late with the muting.
No, you're fine. Let me. So this is from. Let me pull the book up on Amazon, since this is one of my published ones. I know Drake's reading it, but I don't know if he's gotten to this point yet. Let me scroll through, find the right book. Alrighty. Okay, so for reference, what's happened is Rayla Altharan has basically just barely used magic. She feels really terrible about because she's brought up in a anti-magic culture, and especially an anti-magic dad, which you'll see later. But essentially, that's kind of the thing that's happened now, that she's now having to leave. So this is chapter 6. So departure. Rayla shifted her pack a bit and slunk out of the gate, her horse trotting forward in the direction of her farm. She stepped into the room, and he'd been writing at his desk, writing something out. "Hey, Daddy," she said slowly. He remained silent for a while, then Ed stood up and looked at her. "It wasn't your fault," he'd said, sending a piece of paper toward her. "However, you can't stay here." He shoved the papers into her hands. "Take it," were his final words before he pushed her out the door. Confused, she looked down at the papers and read the words. As soon as she'd finished reading, she started to cry. "Rayla, it's time for you to leave. Clearly you didn't mean to do what you did, but you're dangerous to everyone around you. Leave the city. There's a horse in the stable for you and enough money as I can spare to get you set up somewhere in the south. I'm sorry it had to come to this." No, here she was, the letter in her pocket, a good amount of gold in her saddlebags, and a good horse to carry her where she wanted. Slowly, she adjusted the crossbow on her back and nudged her horse to a quick trot toward her farm. She had some money she needed to take from the farm and some additional supplies. As she neared the crossroads, the sound of a very familiar voice singing caught her attention. He lifted her high in the air, swore to love her all her days. He smacked her face and ran away, but he swift chased her swiftly anyway. Despite all that was happening, Rayla laughed as she rounded the bend and saw Mal sitting on a large boulder, idly juggling some colorfully painted balls as she waited next to the road. She wore her usual unadorned boy's clothes, though she wore a long jacket that hung open, revealing a blue vest and white shirt, complemented by a black wide-brimmed hat to keep the sun off. The horse next to her whickered and tossed her head, though he wasn't able to move it, considering he was tied to the signpost. Mal grinned and stood up, picking up a glaive from where she'd set it next to her and dusted off her brown pants. "Took you long enough," she remarked, resting the weapon against her shoulder. "How?" Mal cut her off. "It's pretty obvious you'd be traveling this way." She untied her horse and swung to the saddle. "Besides, you're not terribly subtle." Rail opened her mouth. You're not leaving me behind," Mal cut in again, "and unless you use the source on me, which you won't, you can't make me go." Rayla changed what she was going to say. "I was wondering how you figured out I was leaving," she said quietly. "I didn't know until a couple hours ago." "I heard you crying after talking with your dad," Mal said quietly. "It wasn't hard to figure out what was going on. I wouldn't be much of a friend, and if I left you alone wandering the land aimlessly." Rayla adjusted her sack. "I'm not safe, Mal," she sniffed. "You wouldn't hurt me, and if you could. How do you know that?" "Because you're my friend." The response had a tinge of something that Rayla couldn't quite pick out. Hesitation, maybe? And it seemed like it was more the word choice rather than the attempt behind it. "I will never leave you alone," Mal continued, but this time there was only certainty. "I will stay with you, help you, follow you. All I ask in return is that you let me come with you." "I can use the source," Rayla said quietly. "I'm too dangerous to be around normal people." She couldn't help but put a little bitterness into her voice. Mal sniffed and shrugged. "If I'm going to die, I might as well have it be you." "That might be likely." Rayla adjusted her crossbow. She flashed back when she used the power. It had felt wonderful. That was the only description. She wanted to use it again. For some reason, for that reason, she had to resist. Maria sniffed, but she ignored the voice in her head. Whatever the woman said, the power was not something she could simply use whenever she wanted. She didn't understand how it worked, and she wasn't sure if she wanted to understand it. At least, not yet. "I can teach you," Maria put in. "I was a researcher into the mysteries of the power for several centuries before I died. Let me—" "No!" Rayla shot back, quashing the woman's voice in her head. Mal hadn't noticed the exchange. What was there to notice? It was all inside Rayla's mind. "So, where to first?" the short-haired woman asked, swinging into her saddle with one graceful motion. Rayla couldn't help a tinge of envy. She was a serviceable rider, but Mal's father had put her into the saddle from the time she was 4. Just a cavalryman trying to put ass on everything he knew to his daughter. All Rayla knew was farming and a bit of fighting. She could fight with her hands. She could fire a crossbow, but she wasn't as good as one of the Byzantines. She'd only occasionally gotten to learn how to fight due to the isolated nature of the farm. Each visit to the city had been a rare opportunity to get to learn. Her father was too frail to teach her how to use a polearm or sword, so she'd had to make do with what she was left with. Rayla considered her friend's question carefully. "First, I need to stop at the farm," she decided. "We're going to need some food for the journey, just in case we run out." Pursing her lips thoughtfully, Mal scratched her horse's neck. "Makes sense," she remarked. "I was considering just stealing anything we don't have, but taking some food from our farm sounds like a good plan." Much as it pained her to admit, Rayla had to admit it might come to theft eventually. Her gold wasn't large. It was likely enough to get her in a free city, but if it was, that was if she didn't spend a single coin on the way there. Casually, Mel adjusted her reins and as her horse frisked underneath her. And then what? She inquired. What city are you thinking about? Sanshan, Valencia, Camelot, Illica, and Arn? Or maybe somewhere else? That wasn't the big question. I hadn't thought that through. Rayla's voice came out hesitantly. I just needed to get out. Well, I got a map, Mel remarked, putting a large rucksack adding a large rucksack tied to her saddle. How about we wait till we get to your farm before we make a decision? And when we do, let's do it like we always done. Dice? Rayla chuckled. I'm not sure that would be a reliable decision-making process. Laughing, Mel pulled out a deck of cards and began fiddling with them. Shadows, no, she protested. We'll do it with cards. Besides, what else are we going to do? Logic, reason, Maria remarked sarcastically. Research into what the major employers in the cities are, then using what you know to decide on what part of the world would be most suited to your skill set. You know, sensible things! Ignoring the voice, Ella smiled at her friend. All right, cards it is. I hate this new world, Maria groaned. And that's the end.
Pretty good.
Oh, that's the end?
Yeah, he just
That was very good. Yeah, that was very enjoyable.
I really like the dialogue. It's charming.
I'm starting to think that I should splurge and just buy up all your books at once.
Thank you.
Well, I have Kindle Unlimited, and I have that on my backlog. So
I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna order them all in paper. Sorry,
Yeah.
paperback.
yeah, paperback's the way to go. If only if it weren't so expensive, but kind of how it's
Yeah.
the you know.
So I actually just realized that the next section is really short. Like I could read that as well.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's 2 hours and 12 minutes in, so
yeah, well, I'll just read this quick section, kind of
I'm
just
not
like
quite
them
ready.
at the farmhouse, and then Balerion can read it his thing.
Okay.
Okay. The farmhouse was 2 stories tall, the product of several generations of Altharans building onto what had probably been a small building to begin with. Feeling a small twinge of regret that this was probably going to be the last time she saw her home, Rayla slid out of Challenge's saddle and pushed the door open. We should have some extra food in the cellar, she remarked as she entered. There's the door to the basement if you want to look around. I'm just going to grab some stuff from my room. Mel nodded, sauntering casually toward the cellar door in her thigh-high boots. All right, do you want to spend the night here, or shall we move on once we have what we need? Rayla considered the question, then nodded. I think that staying here might be a good idea, she agreed, at least for the evening. We're likely to be lacking anything resembling shelter and a hot bath for a while. Shrugging, Mal opened the door to the cellar. Makes sense. Why are you asking me those questions anyway? Rayla asked. I'm not really the leader here. If you say so, Mal shrugged. I only ask because I'm tagging along with you, so it makes sense for you to call most of the shots. Most of the shots? Rayla allowed her tone to become somewhat acerbic. Which ones are not the ones I can call? Not sure. I haven't decided yet. Mel waved dismissively. Anyway, I think it's a good idea to point out choices and all right.
What just happened?
What happened?
Apologies. My apologies.
Sounds like something fell.
Yeah.
Yeah. My apologies. My sister and some friends came downstairs and I had to shoo them away.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Rayla said, slowly trying to wrap her mind around Mal's quick words. So, what are your thoughts on where we should go? A considering look in her eyes, Mal leaned on the doorframe. I think if we want to be safe, the White Hand might be a good choice. Though they might be hard to find considering they are all essentially a wandering group of independent mercenaries. Rayla mulled over the suggestion. That's actually not that bad an idea. Of course it is. Mal smirked and hopped down the stairs. I thought of it. Cocky. Rayla laughed slightly and started searching around for supplies. A few crossbow bolts went directly into her pack along with any food. She had her flute already, It would be one of their best resources in the days to come, consider that eventually their gold would run out. She left her other instruments behind, her guitar, her drums, and her bittern, to name a few. Carrying too much would be foolish. A simple light instrument would probably be good. At least, that's what she told herself until her hand came to her harp. It had been a gift from her father, fine hardwood, strings attached specifically for the instrument. Supposedly they had been crafted by one of the finest manufacturers in the Free Cities. The feeling of hurt from her father's rejection rising up inside her, Rayla hesitated to take it. Should I? She put the thought out of her head and grabbed the harp, then carefully placed it in its case and set it aside. Rayla would keep this bit of her father with her. Maybe things would change eventually. Maybe she could show him that she wasn't dangerous. Maybe. I think 2 haversacks of axe full of food should keep us going at least east until the nearest city. Mel's voice echoed from the basement. Same, Rayla agreed, rushing down the stairs with a clover full of bolts in her instrument cases, balancing each other on her belt, then turned the corner into the kitchen. Just as she reached the comfortable, well-stocked room, she heard the sounds of thunder above her. Grimacing, she started pulling down some of the lighter pots and pans, arranging them in the pack. They'd be thankful for these when it came time to cook. How much do you think the horses can carry? Mal asked as she walked backward up the stairs, hauling a large sack filled with food. I know mine can carry a few more things. Yours looks pretty solid. I think we can put together enough food for roughly a week. Rayla took a look at the sack and made a couple estimations. I think half the sack should be enough. Mal shrugged and began sorting the food from the sack. Apples, peaches, some hardened hotcake mix, and some meat ate up the bulk of the food that she set aside for the journey. Most of the perishable stuff went to the side. Suddenly, a flash of lightning streaked across the sky. Surprised, Mal tilted her head upward as another peal of thunder sounded above them. Why didn't you tell me it was raining? She remarked, pulling off her socks, shoes, and jacket, and finally her hat before she rushed out the door. Rayla gaped at her friend as Mal looked up in the sky and opened her mouth to catch the rain on her tongue. I thought we'd gotten past this, she called after her crazy friend. Come on, Mal gestured, beckoning her to come join her. Throw caution to the wind. There's no one to tell us to come out of the cold. We're free. I hate having wet clothes. Rayla shuddered and stubbornly folded her arms. No chance. Then go nude or something. Mal laughed and spun in a circle. I'll join you if it makes you uncomfortable. You're crazy, Rayla called back. No chance. You never do that, Mal laughed again. There's nobody to stare at us. Besides, this is fun. Again, you're crazy. Rayla shook her head, then decided it couldn't hurt. She kicked off her shoes, tugged off her socks, and pulled a poncho from the coat rack. Aw, that's cheating, Mal called. You gotta feel the rain on you to get the full experience. Rayla stubbornly pulled her hood up. It's bad enough that my feet are going to be absolutely filthy without adding cold and even more wet to the mix. Shaking her head incredulously, Mal looked up at the sky, eyes and mouth open. Feels like the sky is coming down toward us, Rayla. Her toes dug into the muddy grass, as if to get a better feel for it. It feels so good. Playing along, Rayla looked up and felt a similar feeling of awe come over her as she gazed toward the sky. She felt something within the storm, something beyond, something that felt familiar. Without realizing what she was doing, she reached out and opened herself to the blue energy and began tweaking at the storm. The rain abruptly halted, then lightning began spidering across the sky in an intricate pattern. They forked through the clouds, each of different vibrant colors. They created a beautiful pattern of lights above them. Mal stared upward, mouth hanging open as she gawked at the lightning. What the hell? She muttered. Abruptly, Rayla realized what she was doing and stopped tweaking the storm with a squeak. The lightning halted and the rain returned, though somewhat less thick than it had been. Mal glanced at Rayla, then looked concerned as she noted her slightly sick expression. Are you all right? She asked, walking over to Rayla and putting a wet, comforting hand on her friend's shoulder. Rayla shook her head silently. You can't just keep all this bottled up inside you, you know. Mal pulled Rayla into an embrace. Just tell me. I'm scared, Rayla whispered. I'm scared I won't be able to stop. So that was you just now. Mal nodded as if something had been confirmed for her. It's gonna be okay. You'll learn how to control it. You'll be good. I just want to stop. Rayla accepted the hug from the shorter woman. I'm scared I'll hurt someone if I use it. Like I hurt those people when they came for us. Mal pushed Rayla to arm's length. I don't want to hear that horse piss from you anymore, she said firmly. You need to get over that experience. You saved those people from being kidnapped. You did the right thing. You don't understand, Rayla ripped her arms through her poncho. Something is wrong with me. I hear a voice inside my head. It can take over my ability to use the source. Mel blinked and frowned, but Rayla kept talking. The voice was the thing that killed the soldiers, not me. And I'm scared that this won't go away, and I'm going to have to live with this for the rest of my life. Eyes intent, Mal reached down to take Rayla's hand. Whatever happens, I will not leave you. She squeezed Rayla's hand. You can beat this. I believe in you. Rayla was glad for the rain to conceal her tears. Thank you, she whispered. Mal smiled and pulled her toward the house. Come on, let's go inside and dry off while we make a feast. And that's the end.
Yay.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Yay.
So is the force in Rayla's head malevolent? I didn't think it was.
No, it's
She
not.
seems to characterize it as that.
It's not malevolent. I think it's
alien.
It's alien.
Either way, she seems not to trust it. Am I correct in that characterization?
Either. If I were in her position, I wouldn't trust it either.
Like, yeah,
I mean,
she kind of eventually finds out. Oh, sorry, Blurry, I cut you off. What?
Oh, I was just saying, you wouldn't trust weird voices talking in your head?
Not after they literally saved your ass. Literally a last chapter.
Well,
yeah.
I'd listen, but that's all I would do.
Yeah. I think partially it's just like she's in a magic xenophobic area, and she's thinking like it's weird
it's a
to
culture
have something
thing.
else. Yeah, so it's a
yeah,
it's a culture thing. That's why
Okay.
her dad kicked her out. That's why her dad kicked her out. And the voice inside her head is actually a fussy atheist former scientist. And she's like, that's why she's saying.
So basically,
actually,
Yesna from Stormlight Archive.
A little bit. She's actually less. She's actually like less together, especially since like she just didn't believe in reincarnation, and now she's being forced to come to grips with the fact that reincarnation exists because she's in the head of a farm girl.
Yeah.
So the flat Earth atheist.
Yes, kind of. Yeah. So imagine like basically like a top-end scientist being transported into the brain of a or a magic scientist, for lack of a better word, being transported into a Renaissance era peasant person's head.
I hate it when that happens.
Yeah, that would be yes. Just
So
yes.
That's why she was complaining. Why are you using cards? Cards to determine where you're going to go. That's stupid.
Yeah.
I hate when the peasants randomly develop superpowers.
Yeah. Well, she's like, you don't have a university here. Oh my gosh, I hate this time period.
Yes, I hate it so much.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic, but they eventually kind of become friends as time goes on. I wanted to kind of like do a different thing with like the mentor type thing, where it's kind of like instead of like having a wise wizard, it's kind of a finicky like atheist lady who's like having to come to grips with the fact that reincarnation exists, as well as just like the two kind of butting heads and like, you primitives and your stupid superstitions need to grow up and learn that the world doesn't work like that.
I'm imagining it's sort of like crossover Winky, but I'm imagining that voice in Rayla's head meeting Vagar and going, "Why is the reptile the only one that understands how the world works?"
Oh, that would be wonderful.
That would be funny. Never gonna happen, other than somebody doing a fan fiction. Yeah, or it's like
I would certainly read a meeting between them.
yeah. I'll have to find some time where they actually converse more. I think like Maria is kind of just like this, like she is this kind of I kind of imagine it as kind of like Tandy Newton, if you kind of know who that is. She was
Yeah.
in Mission Impossible 2, Westworld, and a few other things. And I kind of just imagine it's like a refined British lady and kind of a farm girl's head. And it's just like it's painful for her. She's just like, I hate this so much. You don't have a university, you don't have I didn't go to school, and that is why, and I hate this time. I know it's one of the many, it's called a cruel irony.
Yeah, and this is before the equivalent of the Industrial Revolution, right? So there's no time for someone like her to go to school anyway.
Time
Depends
or
on
money?
depends on the location. Basically, there are areas of this world that are actually almost like San Francisco, modern San Francisco, but they're in the far south. There's also like a steampunk version of Italy. Well, steampunk Venice, essentially. Because, and it's basically like technology is dependent on magic rather than like electricity and such. Basically, they use magic to build cars and stuff, as well as C4. Since one of the things that happened was like this people were a group that decided we're going to live away from the source, and they even had a device that kept people from using the source in their area, so they just kind of stayed away and just built some stuff, and it looks nice, it looks like Rome, but or at least like a really nice Roman city.
I really, really like the aesthetic of the old Roman cities.
Yeah,
I
at least,
do.
Yeah, it's very much a nice, like, beautiful, it's a work of art in stonework, but it took them years to make it. Mostly because they didn't have any magic to use. However, places in the south have things like cars and skyscrapers and magic fire extinguishers that if there's a fire, it just sucks up the fire into like a circular ring in the ceiling. Since there's actually used to be, since there are people from kind of 8 or 900 years ago that were living in a much more advanced time period, and they've kind of maintained kind of culture as they saw it. It's stagnated a little bit in terms of technology, but they still have like revolver firearms and such, as well as buffet style food courts and gymnasiums that look very similar to our own gymnasiums, because they've constructed all of the mechanics that we would have in like a modern gym using magic.
Ooh, I like hearing about this.
Yeah, it's basically so the first time that actually somebody goes to one of these kind of more modern cities, she basically goes in and she's a kind of a jock. She goes in and finds the gymnasium and the gym in the hotel, and she's like, okay, how does this thing work? And she just starts working out because she's bored. and she actually finds that she likes working out at the gym, and she's like, this is actually way more effective than anything at home. Kind of
Yeah.
imagine what would happen if like a like somebody from the Renaissance came to a like who was like a warrior type, and they walked into a modern gym.
Like a Renaissance fair, but
Valley
backwards.
Total Fitness.
Yeah,
Then.
yeah, like a Vasa gym or Planet Fitness, something like that. As
Yeah.
well as like a place that if they go to a breakfast area where just like the food is under a construct, well, under a device that keeps the food in perfect condition perpetually, so it never goes bad.
I
So they
wish
can
we
leave it.
had that.
Yeah, and kind of just like they can kind of like tap on the food and like tap on like a device and say, hey, I'd like to order this food, and they just teleport it out.
Nice.
Like
Yeah.
a replicator.
Kind of, yeah. But it's not even like a replicator. It's more like just like instantaneous service. But yeah, maybe I'll read that another time and kind of just maybe I'll read that next time, since I really like Tempest of Shadow. Tempest of Shadow is one of my favorite books that I've written.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna start with either that one or Big Art books.
The Young Dragonlord.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm considering at some point doing reading something from Prince of Winter. Another thing. It's just like it's kind of a dark book, kind of a dark scene, kind of a darker scene. It's kind of, well, at least like the character in it does something really morally dubious, and I'm interested to kind of hear your thoughts. It's kind of a little bit more dubious than the scene where he floods the mines.
Oh, more dubious than that. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. But I believe our Benioff curmudgeon is his turn.
Yeah.
And then we shall head out. I think I might have to like break this up into pieces so that people can digest it a little bit better. I know that these writers' showcases are kind of the least popular streams of them, though Burnout could also be a possibility. But
yeah,
anyway.
it takes commitment and focus and attention to read and even hear all the stories. I know it's kind of hard for me sometimes, honestly.
Okay.
Is anyone left in the chat now?
There's 3 people. There's 3 people.
Yeah, there are 3 people watching. Then
Okay.
again, I think Crow was streaming for a while.
Yeah, that makes sense. Alrighty. Well, Valerion, it is your turn.
I'm going to get a little nearer my microphone, so pardon me.
Okay.
I can turn you up. 1 second.
But I have to sit near I have to sit at my computer anyway for this.
Well, no,
Everyone
I'm just
knows-
like, try speaking again.
La la la.
Alrighty. Try it again.
La 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 la.
Okay, you sound good. I just adjusted your volume to 130% or some 165%, so I think you should be good.
Okay. Everyone here is familiar in some form with Watership Down, the book, the cartoon, the video game, the anime.
Yeah, the Bunny Snuff film.
There's a video game?
No, the Bunny Snuff film.
I'm just saying stuff. The video game, the anime, cute Japanese girls growing up as rabbits, saying things like "Itaya." Okay, so this is very weird. Really warm, but you see the sort of like weird things. So this is called Watership Like Totally Mall Dudes. And chapter 1 is Fiverr is emo, so rabbits turn post-colonial. Dandelion was considered the coolest rabbit ever because her ear styles was like, wow. Some that she wasn't really a rabbit, which is so lame and speciesist. because identity is totally malleable. LOL, OMG. You can write yourself to be whatever species is killed. That's why Tolkien was a tree. Anyways, Derek Dandelion hung out with Hazel and his friends. Oops, I hit caps lock. That calls into question graphic conventions, and her friends said she was dumb to hang out with them because they was so not the in crowd, which was Holly because he wore military uniforms and militarism was so in. But Derek Dandelion said that was because that was just reinforced power structures. WTF, OMG, OLOL, and that sucks because, like Foucault says, whatever. And Fiverr, Hazel's brother, comes in and was totally way emo and is like, ZOMG, whoa, we're all gonna die. LOL, dudes, we gotta leave. And Dara Dandelion says, fixed identities and essentialism sucks, so yeah. And Hazel take them to see the Chief Rabbit. It's hard to read this font. And says, yo, Chief Rabbit, dude. Half a moment. Wait, where are we? Sorry. Yo, Chief Rabbit, dude. Why is this thing not? Sorry. Yo, Chief Rabbi, dude. My brother prophesied stuff. Like when everyone started dying, their claws turquoise and listened to psychedelic rabbit sounds, and he says bad stuff is gonna happen. And Fiverr got an emo and whoa, he says, whoa, this is serious, angsty. And Chief Rabbit says, that sucks, but getting everyone out of it, Warren, is a bummer. So whatever, dude. And Bigwig, who brought them in because he was Alza, that means power structures. You are a lamer for bringing these jerks. And Dara Dandelion says, shut up, old man. You are dumb. Because I was prosecuted for being half-blood, which give me insight. And Foucault is so you. So I know Fiverr's right. And they got it a bunch of rabbits and leave. And Captain Holly, who was kind of establishment and wore suits and went to boring meeting and had secretaries bring coffee and stuff, says, Bigwig, you sucks. You are under arrest. No, you are. No, you are not, because when I was captured by humans for being a rabbit of the 21st century who thought she was ordinary, I learned martial arts, says Dandelion. And Holly says, whatever. So they went. Okay, chapter 2. Because this is a quick one. Want me to go on chapter 2? That was a short one.
You are so lucky. I've been following Literature Devil's Life is Strange playthrough, so I'm immunized to this crap.
I'm actually not following those playthroughs. I prefer Danganronpa personally.
Everyone prefers Danganronpa.
I don't. Danganronpa is way too depressing.
I don't really like watching game playthroughs under the best of circumstances.
I'm not sure what you're on about now.
I use the game playthroughs as walkthroughs because I'm working through one of them myself.
I only watch game playthroughs if it's a game I know I'm not gonna get anytime soon. So I just blaze through it to see the story and stuff.
So
yeah, if it's like an ending walkthrough.
A YouTuber who's got a very large following by the new Literature Devil is doing a game playthrough of a game called Life is Strange. It's apparently pretty bad, but also
the gameplay or the game itself?
I don't know. I think it's the story is what I've heard the most bad things about.
Well, there isn't gameplay, so logically you would.
Yeah.
You want chapter 2? It's pretty short too, I think. It's pretty also pretty short.
Yeah.
While we're here, might as well read more, I guess.
Yeah.
If you want.
It's just, yeah, maybe I'll just do one more chapter because they're short. And then next week I'll do something. I'll probably do something serious again next week.
It's kind of
Just to be fair, it's been like
well, I
2
think
hours and 40 minutes now.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
it's been a long time. It's been a long
I think
time.
part of it is just like it's part of it is kind of like Watership Down is kind of an obscure film. I mostly know it because the movie is kind of infamous as the most terrifying kids film ever made.
Terrifying kids film.
Well, I think
That's
that's what
an
they call it because it was
oxymoron that I don't think
animated.
I've ever heard before.
Because there are
Yeah.
mean rabbits later on in the story.
Oh dear.
It's like kind of the movie has got a lot is animated, but it's got a lot of disturbing imagery of rabbits getting killed or rabbits killing each other with
Rabbits killing
blood
each other.
all over the place.
And some of them look like monster rabbits too.
Who cares how many I kill? I'll just make more of my belly.
Chapter 2.
Yeah.
Mythologies are meta-narrative. The robots travel quite sucks a bit. Now, Derek Dandelion is totally brilliant about narrative stuff. So the rabbit says, tell us about the blessing of Eel O'Hara. O'Hara was the rare bit hero and was way cool. Okay, Frith was the sun god and mated all the animals and blessed them LOL in various stereotype essentialist ways, because this story totally uses ancient mythologies that come from the fact that the ancient Near East measured wealth in camels and stuff, said Dara Dandelion. WTF, that's not how the story goes. You are subverting what our ancestors said Bigwig, who was cool but a bit fascist. Stop hegemonizing, dude. The ancestors was a bunch of dweebs, so shut up, said Dara Dandelion. And Eel O'Hara, because he knowed Frit made power structures totally pro-LL, which are animals that eat rarebit. And Frit said, you are a lamer and your paradigm is so outmoded. Okay, you're an A-blank anyway. Wait, stop. No, yours is. You can bless my butt, said O'Hara. LOL. Okay, because you were an A-blank anyways, said Frit. And that's why Rabbits runs away from my lectures on post-colonialism. Then the Rabbits literally had a contest on if Frit exists or not. Then boring stuff happened and they came to a river and the straight white male rabbits were too dumb to know about boats because they just sit and watch sports all day, except BlackBerry, who later invented PDAs so robots could text each other about LLs, who said, put Fiverr and Pippin, who was a puny rabbit but cute, and later did ads because people like buying stuff with cute animals on bits of wood and pushed them across the river. And no one got it except Dara Dandelion, who made sure the bits of wood was color coordinated, because who wants to cross a river on tacky wood? And Hegel said, okay, dudes, just swim, so the fox or whatever couldn't get them. Being hegemonized by predators sucks. So then they was in a moor or something and went totally emo, and Hobbit says, this sucks. We've had more than enough of this crap. And Hazel says, yeah, whatever, but I'm a politician, so I'll tell you what you want to hear. And Bigwig got it fascist again and says, you sucks. We're the power structures now. And they had it another... Sorry, I can't read this thing. And they had another straight white male pissing contest. And Dara Dandelion says, your power ritual sucks. You owe Hegel your allegiance, but not because power struck, but because he's cool. So they shut it up. And that's the end of that chapter.
I'm not sure how to
put it.
Yeah.
It's so
It's
yeah.
This too,
I
this
understand.
too clear.
I
Oh.
understand. I only understand what is going on by virtue of the fact that I have watched the show and I know what happens in the movie. Um, Basically, what is happening is Fiverr, this prophet rabbit, is seeing death happening, and they're basically explaining the lore of the rabbits, where there was originally a king of the rabbits who was really proud, and the god Frith saw that he was uppity, and so he made it so that all the animals of the world would chase after it and eat him. So, and when Elefera, the king of the rabbits, was hiding in a hole, Frith blessed Estim, said, "I would like to give you a gift," and Elefera was like, "Your other gifts are not very good. I think I'm gonna stop." And he's like, "Well, I give the others gift to hunt you, so I might as well bless your bottom."
What?
On him, so that yes, bless your bottom so that you have a bright white tail that will fly, that will that will signal to anybody who wants to hear, to your brethren, that will the need to run, and also to give you long legs to run and from the other things, but they'll also chase after you. Watership Down has a lot of weird mythology to it.
I have no doubt about that.
Yeah, that's kind of the best explanation that I can give.
Yep, I should have warned you that this is very weird. Actually, I did, but then I figured you guys like weird stuff anyway.
Oh, we do like weird stuff, but but it's like hard when like I understand like what's going on, where it's basically like a teen fan fictionalized prose of the original novel.
Well, also
I completely agree with Visitor Massacre.
I can't.
After the reading of the first chapter, I was like, "What the hell is this? What's in my water?"
Yeah, this one is a little. It's also they're also, in addition to being teen and fanfic, it's also uses. They're also into big
Words like
academic stuff,
post-colonialism and
post-colonial,
fascism.
blah 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
You have to use the word fashy because that's the new thing.
Yeah.
This was back a decade ago, so
yeah.
What did you put in this coffee? I didn't see that. That didn't happen. That couldn't have.
Yes.
Basically. But I don't have coffee in front of me. I have a glass of water, and I'm wondering what exactly is in it.
I'm either drinking too much or not enough.
Maybe
so long that
Yes.
our brains have that's what happened.
Maybe we should watch Watership Down one of these days, though. I actually have no idea whether you guys. I've never seen the original movie. I've seen the show, and the show's okay. I'm interested to see the movie, but apparently it's it's really it's actually kind of like more disturbing than most horror movies because it's rabbits.
Apparently there was a Netflix remake, but according to my furry dad, it's a piece of shit.
That's the
I'm
show.
not surprised.
Yeah,
Mostly because the animation is weird.
It was back to around 1980. I guess that's the movie you're talking about, right?
Alrighty. Well, thank you very much. Maybe one of these days we will watch that movie, but for now we're gonna call it a day.
Yeah, it's almost 3 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will I'll probably chop this up and re-upload bits of it.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate having you on. And if any of you still, thank you all for the people watching. I very much appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you guys on Monday. Adios.